are live. Welcome in, everybody. It's been a couple weeks. It's been the first time we were able to talk about an Eagles win. We haven't talked since the Phillies unfortunately broke our hearts a little bit. They're not here. As always, this is Pike's Pub Live. This is real sports talk, sports betting, fantasy football, you name it, local, national. Call-in line is open for everybody in the Heat Ratio sports family, the Windale sports family, the Sirius XM family, everybody watching all over, live on Facebook, live on YouTube, live on X. You name it, we are live. Get your comments in, get your questions. We got some bets that we're going to place for a doubleheader Monday night football game. We got the call in live. The line is open. We want to talk anything from fantasy football. You want to talk sports betting. You got some questions for your lineup. But as always, you got some Eagles questions. You got some Eagles reaction. You got some Phillies reaction. A lot of stuff going on right now. And listen, it is really nice to say that Saquon Barkley is the king, the new Philadelphia king, right? I mean, honestly, how can you not be excited about Saquon Barkley? Listen, the biggest question for tonight is, are you okay now? Has your faith been restored? Right? Are we okay? Do you feel okay now? Has your faith been restored in the Philadelphia Eagles? Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you saying, okay, you know what? We're back on the right path. Did a lot of interesting things the other day. Okay, so we want to know. Check it in, check it online, check in here at Pike's Pub right here on 455 2nd Street Pike, the home of the $3 lunch specials. We got an open bar, we got open food, we got a kitchen open, we got all the screens on, we got the pool tables going, we got the golden tea machine. We got a lot of people here wanting to talk and talk about their opinion. But faith been restored. What's up, Adam? I see you checking in as always. But has the faith been restored? And that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest question mark I think we all have to talk about. Are we okay? Are we going to get let down? Right? Are we going to get let down again? And that's my biggest thing. Are we going to get let down again? But I will say one thing, man. And I know there's a lot of people watching from my Windale sports family. I'll tell you what, man. The New York Giants suck, dude. They are terrible. Like, the New York Giants are absolutely terrible. I cannot believe that they have to sit there and watch Daniel Jones making all the money that he does. I mean, look, I don't like the trash guys. I don't like the Berry guys, but I'll tell you what, man, like, just watching him throw the ball, he just does not look good, man. He does not look good. Adam checking in says Hurts is looking like the 2002 Hurts again. Adam, I wouldn't get too carried away with that, to be honest with you. Listen, I like what I saw. I like that he's back a little bit. My man Jimmy Wags checking in says, how could they not let Barkley go for 200 yards rushing? I'll be honest with you, man. Like, that was all Saquon. Right? That was all Saquon. I mean, me and my man Frank were talking about it off air and talking about how nice of a guy this guy is. That he says, look, man, I'm okay. Let the young man eat. Let Kenny Gainwell eat. He wasn't even worried about the 200 yards. He just wants to win. Like, that's the one thing about Saquon Barkley. He wants to win, but man, 22 miles an hour that dude was clocked at. Like, it's ridiculous at how fast this guy is. And you know what could be even more ridiculous? And I'm going to go around the horn a lot tonight. We got my man Tyler Mraz checking in about 5 to 10 minutes. We'll see if Frank wants to come up later, get back up on the mic. I got my man Dave Glecter from Sirius XM checking in later on about 8 o'clock. We're going to look at some bets for the game tonight, look at some DFS plays. We're going to get into all of it tonight. And we're going to recap the NFL all week. And we got an NBA season starting tomorrow. Right, we got an NBA season starting tomorrow. The Sixers open up on Wednesday against Milwaukee. We got the Flyers that are rolling, right? They gave up a heartbreaker, but the young boy Mitchkov looks like he's a stud. And we got the Phillies. We haven't even talked to Phillies about, can they get back to a World Series? Like, well, what is everybody's thought? What is everybody's idea? And can they fix whatever needs to be fixed? What needs to be fixed, in your opinion? So a lot of stuff to talk about. Yeah, Rich Barkley was a flat-out stud. Listen, all I could say, Adam, I was off last week, back this week. Thanks for joining in as always, buddy. Appreciate it. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to the stream. Make sure you're liking and subscribing wherever you're watching from, whether it be Rise and React Media, which is who's producing this right now, whether it be Windale Sports, whether it be Heat Ratio Sports, whether it be Pike's Pub on Facebook. Make sure you're liking them to get in tune with all their live entertainment and their live specials every single day. Adam, listen. You're right, man. They still need to get off the faster starts and score points in the first quarter. There's a lot, man. There's a lot to dissect in this. It's are the Giants that bad, or are we just that good? Did we start to click? Or are the Giants just absolutely terrible? We beat two bad teams. And listen, I was just watching Deshaun Watson. We watched his Achilles pop yesterday. Not sure if you saw the game, but his Achilles literally popped when he went back. So he's done. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, we're going to go around the NFL because I love what I saw last night from Russell Wilson. Russell starting to cook again. I thought that was 100% the right decision for Mike Tomlin. So we're going to get involved in that as well. Yeah, Rich says, I'm still convinced. I can't understand how you could have 20 scripted plays unorganized. Listen, the script is interesting, man. The script is in there. Something Andy Reid always had, right? Something Andy Reid always had helped the offense really spur on. Get off to that hot start. And right now they're not getting off to the hot. Still haven't scored any points in the first quarter. Another first quarter with a goose egg, man. And look, let's be honest, that 4th and 3, if AJ Brown doesn't catch that ball and Saquon or Jalen Hurts gets sacked, this could be a completely different scenario that we're talking about right now, right? Completely different scenario. So there's a lot of stuff that we need to break down. Jimmy is a Cincinnati guy. He says Philly is like my Bengals. They aren't a 60-minute team. They play 2.5 quarters and take the rest off, and it costs them at times. Listen, that team, Jimmy, that offense is too talented not to be just balling out, man. I just think that they stopped believing in the coach. I think they stopped believing in the system. Obviously they miss Jesse Bates. Oh my God, they miss him on defense. He was the gel, man. I will say this, and again, when we talk all things here, not just Philly. Jesse Bates was like your Brian Dawkins on that Cincinnati Bengals team, right? So, Brian Dawkins was the glue that held this secondary together, and that's what Jesse Bates did. And now he's in Atlanta balling out, and Cincinnati looks like they can't stop anybody, right? So unless they score 30 to 40 points, they're not going to win a lot of games. Exactly, Rich, exactly. Should still be scripted. I agree, man. It should still be scripted, those first few plays. And again, right? Yeah, it doesn't help that the owners are cheap. Yeah, your owners out there in Cincinnati have always been cheap, man. I asked Marvin Lewis all those years Marv was out there, right? If you ask all those years that Marvin Lewis was out there, how many times he wanted free agents, he couldn't keep guys, he couldn't bring guys in, he couldn't build a team. That's not the problem here, right? That's not the problem here. I'm just trying to figure out. Yeah, Rich says, I like the fact that Moore finally had Hurts in both shotgun and under center. Yeah, listen, 100%. I like using the linebacker as the fullback. How about that little wrinkle in there? Using number 57, I forget the guy's name. I'm sure one of the listeners will let me know. I Van something, I forget. But again, what was nice about that is you go I formation, and I'll tell you what, Saquon is so fast to bump out on the side and run up that line, man. He's unbelievable. And I'll tell you what, Cam Jurgens played a hell of a game at center. Played a hell of a game. He's out and block, and then Steen comes in and plays a hell of a game out, for Becton, who goes out again, right? Fred Johnson kind of held his own out there for Jordan Mailata, and he's going to have to continue to do that. Listen, Stoutland University, man, it's all about Jeff Stoutland. We talked about that. He has these guys ready at any given time. Yes, Adam, we got to take it game by game, right? Game by game mentality is what we're always going to do. It's a game by game mentality. But the thing is, we actually have stuff to talk about, right? We actually have stuff to talk about. And that's what's nice about this. Yes, there you go. My man Richie D checking in. Help me out. Ben Van Sumeren. Van Sumeren, number 57. I knew the number. I forgot the guy's name. Van Sumeren going into block, man. That was a nice little wrinkle that we finally saw, to elevate that running game next level. And again, man, like Saquon doesn't even need a crease, man. He just needs a little bit, not even a little bit of space. He makes his own space, but the guy is so elite, man. And now you see why. Now you see why we paid to get this guy here. And everybody in New York that said this guy was washed, said this guy couldn't play anymore. I welcome that conversation, man. Are you just being a hater? Okay, because I'll tell you what, from what I saw, this guy's got many, many years left. This guy looks prime and ready to lead this team to the next level, man. So I just say keep feeding this guy. 17's not enough, man. I want this guy to get 20 to 22 touches a game, man. Like 15 to 17 is not enough. I don't care how many yards he has. You got to continue to go. I like how they opened up with A.J. Brown, open up to the best receiver in football, in my opinion, especially on that slant. Okay, yes, I did say it, man. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I know everybody talks about Justin Jefferson, but when you talk about hands, you talk about strength, you talk about ability, A.J. Brown is one of none other, man. There's nobody next to A.J. Brown, in my opinion. And that's what you need to continue to use. You need to continue to use. Adam says, how about that defense looking great this week? And last 2 weeks, only giving up 12 points in 2 weeks now. Is that because the Cleveland Browns are not that good? Is that because the New York Giants absolutely stink? Like, what is it? Is it both? Or is it these guys are actually starting to ball out a little bit? Is it these guys? Listen, we saw Bryce Huff finally get involved a little bit, right? We saw a lot. Listen, Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter work like they were back together in Georgia again. Like they were two Bulldogs and rookies at the line, man. They looked like they were in sync. And if you listen to who was it? I think it was on the PHLY post-game show. Vinny Curry was checking in, and Vinny Curry was checking in, and what he said specifically was, look, man, the way these two guys, they commingle together was one of the biggest reasons why, right? It was one of the biggest reasons why they became successful in that game. So I absolutely loved it. Rich says, Barkley used that truck stick with that pass. This line is number one running back in the league if they keep feeding him. 100%. The line is elite. The line is elite. And if they keep feeding this guy to rock, you're always going to have success, man. You're always going to have success. 100%. Rich says, I believe that this week is going to be a shootout with the Bengals. What's up, Matt? What's up, brother? I agree, man. Rich, I completely agree. I think, and again, it got flexed, right? Not surprised. You got the Jacksonville game that got flexed. Not surprised. All these games get flexed by the Eagles. I mean, look, it is what it is. I'm not minding it. I'm not hating it. But this defense on the Cincinnati Bengals is absolutely garbage. Right. So if we can't score a point in the first quarter against the Bengals, I don't know if we could score against anybody in the first quarter because they actually might be worse than the Giants. Okay, they actually might be worse than the Giants. That's the crazy thing, man. That's a crazy thing. Listen, I'm just happy we got a win, man, because I'll tell you what, I said this, the other day. I'm so glad that I can go on the weekend and talk national sports on Sirius XM because I would kill myself if I had to talk about the Eagles every single day. It's the same thing every day, right? Like, you got to get some new material every now and then, which is like what I like to do about it, right? I like to get that new material. So when you want to get that new material, start talking about different things, throughout the NFL. I mean, let's talk about last night real fast. Let's talk about that game. I mean, you talk about problems. I'll tell you, the Jets got some problems, man. Like, they got some problems. Like, that team, Joe Douglas is on his way out. Like, this team loses again, Joe Douglas on his way out. I mean, this has been an absolute clown show out there, man. Right? It's been an absolute clown show. And then you look at Pittsburgh again, man. I can't stop. I can't stop getting happy over Pittsburgh, dude, because I'm a Mike Tomlin guy, and I love the decision to go back to Russ. And you saw the different trajectory. They talked about it. They talked about it on the program. The trajectory of the ball to George Pickens. You got to get your playmakers involved, man. Everybody got talking about 10 touchdowns. But guess what? It was actually only 5. Justin Fields threw 5 touchdowns. Okay, he ran for 5, but he threw 5. He threw 5. Okay, 5 touchdowns is not going to get it done. That's not going to get it done. Not going to get it done, man. 100% not going to get it done. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to get it done. You got to do a little more, man. You got to do a little more. And I think that's exactly why he made the decision that he did. And, he talked about that's why he's very well compensated, right? I think that's why he is one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the National Football League because of what he did last night, right? He trusted the veteran. Listen, and I'll tell you what, man, if Justin Fields is in Chicago and this happens in Chicago, Justin Fields talk about the way he reacts is completely different. It's completely different But because he's been brought into this culture in Pittsburgh, okay, because he's been talked about it, that's why he was exactly as, listen, he was professional about it. His sportsmanship was on another level. He knows. My man Prince checking in. What's up, Prince? We're gonna get. Did you get the parlay Discord, man? We got the bets in Discord. I'll go over them again. Got 4 parlays night. Hit the big parlay last night for 1080 plus 1080. We got a little garbage time by Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin got us the over 13.5 at the very end. What's up, Jake? At the very end, man. Got it at the very end. Enough to cash it in, man. Enough to cash it in, which was nice. We got the parlay hit. Rich says Jets offense is in shambles. Rodgers controls his team, and he looks horrible. You know what? He doesn't look horrible, but he looks like he's been hindered, man. The leg is hindering him a lot. I don't care what anybody says. That leg is a problem. Okay? That leg is an absolute problem, and it's going to continue to be a problem. He is not 100%. He is not 100%. Now, make sure you keep it in two. We got 2 games tonight. Obviously, we got Baltimore. We got Tampa Bay. We got the Chargers. We got the Arizona Cardinals. Okay, we're going to go look at both of those games from the betting perspective. We're going to break down some bets. Yeah, if you got any fantasy football questions, this is just like the series show that we do. Again, call in. The number is in. Listen, the link is in the comments. All you need to do is grab your phone, click on it, boom. You get live on the air. You don't need a camera. Okay, you don't need a camera. It's just like a call-in number. It's just a click, man. You check it in. You check in, get in there. Anything you got. My man Prince says, I just played the ones that you – oh, nice. Listen, Prince, I'm on a heater, man. I'll be honest with you. We'll be hitting at least one big parlay a weekend. Okay, so we can continue that route. We're up 14-4 in cross bets, and we've actually hit 36 single bets the last 2 weeks. Okay, so we are a betting machine right now. We are loving it, and we're having fun over there at Windale Sports. Make sure if you want to get involved, use that code word HEAT, HEAT, to get your 50% off. As always, you can get a month membership of all our models for under $25 for a month, man. If you use that word HEAT, HEAT, make sure you get checked in. But we're going to bring my man Tyler in, man. My man Tyler, I want to see if his faith has been restored in the Philadelphia Eagles. I want to know what he's feeling after this game. My man Tyler, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Listen, man, I cannot complain, brother. Cannot complain. How about you?
I'm doing great, man. Eagles win. It's a great day. Mets lose. It's a great day. It's a great
Even
day.
better, right? Even better. Listen, I will be honest with you. I actually is this a sin by me saying I was actually hoping the Mets won? Is that bad to say?
Yeah. I don't care who they're playing. And unless it's maybe the Braves. No, I don't want a Subway Series. I'm glad the Dodgers won. MLB gets their dream World Series matchup. It's their 2 biggest markets. It's their 4 of their biggest stars, arguably 5. I'm just happy. It's better for the game of baseball. It's better for the fans' perspective, especially us Phillies fans who pretty despise the Mets a ton. So I'm glad they lost.
Yeah, listen, I just thought that they were on a really good heater, man. Like they were doing things the right way. Like honestly, whether we don't like them or not, right? They were doing things the right way, which I like. But we haven't talked, man. So I want to redirect first because you were the guy doing the post game shows, you were doing the pregame shows, you were back and forth with the Phillies, man. We haven't talked since they broke our hearts. Okay, can the Phillies get back to the World Series? It's an easy question, but it's like a lot of people are saying the door's closed on this team the way it's constructed. I don't believe so. But what do you feel has got to happen, man? What's your overall feeling right now with these Phillies?
I feel like they need to address the outfield because I don't think that Johan Rojas has shown any progression. I think he was the same as he was last year. You know what you're getting from him. You're getting elite defense and you're getting a below average bat. And same thing with Brandon Marsh. I think that needs to be a serious question they look into. Are they going to go all in on Juan Soto? Are they going to pivot to someone like an Anthony Santander? So I really think it's the outfield. I feel like the bullpen's fine. They just underperformed in the playoffs. The odds of that happening again are very low. So bring back Hoffman, bring back Estevez. I think the rest of that bullpen's fine. So I really think it's just the outfield.
Yeah, listen, man. I'll be honest with you. I would bring back Estevez. Like I like what you just said because a lot of people are hating on Estevez. I would definitely bring him back. Listen, you need a closer, okay? And listen, except for that game, listen, nothing was going right, man. Nothing was going right. I'd like to see this guy now again if he's not asking buku money, man, because that's the problem, right? I mean, if he's going to be asking millions and millions and like top closer money, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if I could do it, but I'd like to see him with a full year here to see, like, all right, this is your role. This is how we're going to do it. Because I don't know if you can remember, and this is just an off-the-cuff question, but I don't remember many closers that were dealt at the trade deadline that were, like, extremely successful, in years past. Because it's especially when you're going from American League to National League. I don't know about you. I thought his ball was a little too flat to me. It didn't have a lot of movement on it. I think he relied more on his over the top delivery to kind of hide some of the spin and the velocity. But I don't know, Tyler. I would like to see him back. But I'll tell you what, man, I think Hoffman mentally, I think he's out. What do you think?
Know. I think it's one bad playoff appearance. He was just an all-star. He had a sub-2 ERA for most of the season, so I would definitely bring him back unless he's asking for top-of-the-end money, which he very well could be. He was an all-star. He could get away with that, and there's probably some teams that are desperate for bullpen arms that would pay him that money. So I really think it's all up to Jeff Hoffman and whether he's going to be asking for a ton of money to go to whatever team pays him the most, or if he's willing to take a little bit less to come back and try to win a World Series. Or maybe there's a World Series contender out there that loves him and wants to pay him top-end money, and he goes there. So I'm not sure, but I really think the Phillies should try everything they can to bring him back.
Yeah, listen, man, I think, you heard Dombrowski talk. He didn't give you a lot. Again, he's a tight to the lip kind of guy. I still think that the Juan Soto pipe dream is over. I think anybody that thinks that, I still don't see it. Honestly, I still don't see it. But let's get to the comments real fast because I know this came up. My man Jimmy ain't here yet, but I know he wanted me to talk about this. And I know Adam's asking this and Rich is talking about it. Adam says, what do you think of Topper coming back and all the coaches? Rich says he's shocked that they're all coming back. Thought the hitting coach of Kevin Long would be gone. I don't know if you could put this on a hitting coach, man. Like, I'll be honest with you. I don't put it on Kevin Long. I really don't. I mean, eventually these guys, bro, they got to hit, man. Like, they've hit before, right? They've hit before. Now, all of a sudden, their approach is wrong. Their approach was good 2 years ago. Remember, we were all bowing down to Kevin Long. Best hitting coach in all baseball. Look what he did to Brandon Marsh. Look what he did to this guy. Look what he did to that guy. And now all of a sudden we want to get him out of here. I think that this whole staff deserved to be back. I do. Big Golden Tee game going on right now, if you could hear it. Big Golden Tee game going on. Yeah, listen, honestly, I think they all deserve to be back, man. What about you?
Yeah, I don't see any reason of why they would be let go. But I do feel like this is probably a good amount of the staff's last dance. If the Phillies don't at least make it back to the World Series this year, I think you're going to see significant changes in both the coaching staff and the players, even key players like Castellanos, Schwarber. This could be their final year with the team. But I'm all for running it back. You just got unlucky. You faced the hottest team in the league. They lost to the Dodgers, who have Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. They're a super team. So I feel like the Phillies have all the tools they need. They just have some minor things they have to work out. And I feel like the coaching staff does a good job. I like Caleb Cotham. Still think Rob Thompson's a good manager. I mean, we just won the division. I know it doesn't mean anything. Me personally, I preach on here about how playoff success is the most important thing. And it is. But we've had playoff success. It's gotten downhill the past couple of years, but still made a World Series 2 years ago. You were a game away from it last year, and everything went wrong this year. You're not going to win every year. You're not going to make it to the World Series every year. I mean, look at a team like the Dodgers. They're 4 wins away from winning their first legit World Series, and I don't even remember the last time. I probably wasn't even born yet. So, I mean, it takes time. And once you're in it, because Dombrowski has those teams where they don't always win it, but eventually they do because he keeps the team competitive. He runs the same cores back, just adds minor pieces. And I think the coaching staff is a big part of that. And I think Rob Thompson was one of the biggest reasons that the Phillies even made it to the World Series. I know the bats were hot, but his bullpen management, his lineups were phenomenal. Wasn't great in this postseason, but nothing was going right. So I really don't think that you can blame the coaching staff all that much.
Nah, listen, I don't think so either. I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't. I don't think that you can really listen. 95 wins is 95 wins, bro. Like at the end of the day, I don't. We're not talking about a monumental collapse here. I'll be honest with you. I actually think that last year was worse than this year. Right? Right? I mean, like we had the lead, bro. Like that last year to me was worse than this year. This year just hurt because, again, the whole talk was win the division, right? Get the bye, right? And that's what we did. And I do feel a little bit that these guys got a little too lackadaisical. And hear me out for a second. This is what I think. I think that they have fell in love with the premise that they can flip that switch whenever they want, right? It's okay. We don't hit for a week. We'll be fine. We don't hit for 2 months. We'll be okay, right? And they fell in line with that logic way too much, and it bit them right in the ass because at the end of the day, that switch, which I kept saying, I don't think they could just flip it. Guess what? They couldn't. And I think they have to have a different mentality going into this year. And Trey Turner killed him, bro. Trey Turner killed him.
He has a very questionable contract. I don't think he's necessarily a negative asset. I also don't think he's a top shortstop anymore. I mean, he showed flashes at the end of last year, but he was hurt for a good amount of this year. Still made the All-Star team. He had a really hot stretch in June and July. But I don't know. I really don't know how I feel about him going forward in the future. Is he eventually going to move to second base? Because he's a liability defensively at times at shortstop. So I think there's a good chance you could see him and Stott maybe switch. Stott has experience at short, and he's a Gold Glover. So I feel like that's maybe something in not next year, but maybe in the next 2 or 3 years. Because I don't know if it was Dombrowski or Topper. They said that Trey Turner is going to be the starting shortstop. So I think in time it's going to get more concerning, but I think he has a window, and it's starting to close faster than I expected.
I agree. I keep saying this, and I'm going to hang my hat on this all the time. That I think Trey Turner is one of those players that we didn't see play enough. We saw him obviously in Washington, but we didn't see him play enough in LA, West Coast team, right? And we were just going by overall numbers. And watching this guy, I was like, wait a minute, this is a $300 million player. Like I just didn't feel it. I felt like he's a good player, but I didn't think he was a great player. And I think that now you've actually taken a step back defensively, because I think Bryson Stott is the better shortstop. And I really do. I think he's a much better shortstop. And Rich checks in and he says Trey has underperformed. He has 2 good months in 2 seasons with that contract. Can't disagree, man. I cannot disagree at all. Hollow numbers, Rich says. Yes, very hollow numbers. My man Food's checking in and says, what's good, fellas? Happy Victory Monday. Yes, just like Johnny Drama and Entourage. Victory! Right? We got some victory. Finally talking some victory. We'll get to some birds back in a minute. But I think that they take that step back, Tyler. And unfortunately, looking at this lineup, I know a lot of people, are calling for Trey Turner to lead off now. And I don't see it. Okay. But what I will say is they definitely, I'm finally coming around, and he's not here tonight, but there was a guy here about 3, maybe like 4 weeks ago. I was arguing with back and forth about Schwarber being okay to be lead off because he's bat 250, this and that. And then somebody made a great point to me, and opened my eyes up, because as much as I can be crazy, I still do listen to what people say. And they talked about, well, look, it's a hollow home run. Like, yeah, it's great you leads off with a home run, but it's only one run. And then I look back at '08, and he's like, look at that team that had table setters up top with Jimmy and Victorino and Chase. And then you had your big pieces coming up after that. And I was like, you know what? He's right. But my thing is, is Schwarber going to say, yeah, you know what? You're right. Or is Topper just going to be like, nah, we got to keep him up top? What do you think, man?
We all know Topper is stubborn. He does it his way. You rarely see him change things up. I mean, he did it this year just because of how desperate he was. He was starting Weston Wilson. He was starting Austin Hayes. But I don't think that's going to change. Kyle Schwarber's probably the best leadoff hitter in the entire league. I get the whole lineups, the way the whole lineup is constructed. This modern day of baseball, you're seeing more of the power guys lead off to try and get to that 1-0 lead. And then bottom of the lineup gets on, you got runners on, and then guess who comes up? The guy who hits 40 home runs a year. So I don't think that's going to change. If the Phillies maybe struggle as a whole next year, I could see potentially Trey swapping, maybe Bryce bats second, like you see the Dodgers. Ohtani bats first, he bats leadoff, and that's huge for them. So I don't see why the Phillies would do it, only if they were struggling.
Yeah, I mean, look, the biggest thing I look at is who do we have to do it, right? I mean, like, a lot of people were saying, before this year, I have Bryson Stott, right? But you look at Bryson Stott this year at 245, I still think he could lead off. I really do. I think that he takes a lot of good pitches. I think he has really prolonged at bats. And, yeah, maybe he only hit 245, but I want to get to this for a minute because I blame this on Rob. I blame Rob Thompson for the regression of Bryson Stott. This is a young kid who played every day. And it's a young kid who was a top pick, a kid who came up through our farm system. And right away, you never gave him the opportunity to hit the lefties. You just automatically say, you know what? You're going to be out. We're going to put Sosa in a platoon with you. And you took away all those at-bats from him. And I didn't like that. And I thought maybe that could have hurt his confidence a little bit. That maybe he's a guy that needs to continually, be in the lineup and be on a roll. So I actually blame Topper for a little of this regression. I don't know about you, but that's the way I feel about it.
I disagree slightly just because when Joe Girardi was the manager, Bryson Stott wasn't even playing. He was just sitting on the bench. He wasn't even getting at bats. And then when he was fired, because he was playing Didi Gregorius over Bryson Stott, and Didi Gregorius was pretty awful at that point. And then what happens when Girardi's gone? Bryson Stott.
And Bryson Stott gets in there, man. And that's exactly what happens. You got Bryson Stott comes in, and Bryson Stott continues to, listen, he had a hell of a playoff last year, right? I mean, that's the one thing. He had a hell of a playoff last year. Got a little connection problems with Tyler. I'm sure he'll be right back. No big deal. Stott is a stud, right? Stott is a stud on defense. He's only given up 4 errors all season, right? Decent to play. Give him a shot to bat against lefties. That's what I say. Give him a shot, man. Give him a shot. I think we got Tyler back. Tyler, we back?
There we go. Yep.
There we go.
Always ESPN when I go to look at the stats. They don't want me looking at these stats.
No, man. ESPN, they want to charge you a credible fee. Credibility fee. Like my man, yo.
Hey.
What's up?
2 weeks in a row, we didn't give a fucking touchdown.
Yeah, 12 points.
Boom.
No, you're right. Always. So, are we back?
To be determined.
That's not a lot of confidence.
It really does but I'm loving also Penn State too. I'm kind of liking their tight ends.
Okay.
So check them out.
All right. I will check that out. Really? I'm not a Goddard guy, so I could use a nice tight end on this team. I love it, man. Love it. See, fellas, be careful. As always, man, talking Eagles. Everyone wants to talk Eagles, and we're talking Eagles, we're talking Phillies, talking Flyers. We got Sixers coming up, man. Ty, we got all kinds of stuff to talk about. But Rich says Stott's a stud on defense. Give him a shot against lefties. my whole thing is at this point, Tyler, you have to do what's best for this team to win. And, Topper, his biggest, and I kind of got that idea from him. I think maybe he said, all right, I'm going to do it this way, for the, this year and a half or whatever, 2 years. And if it doesn't go that way, we got to do some changes. And I think that conversation was had. And I think listen, he's a baseball guy. Like, he's not dumb. I say it to people all the time. Like, this dude's not an idiot. Like, he wants to win, right? I mean, this guy's been around baseball forever. He is a baseball lifer, man. That's what he is. He's been on tremendously fundamentally sound teams. We've heard A-Rod talk about how fundamentally sound his training camps are, right? So this is a guy who's well respected around the league. I have no doubt in my mind, Tyler, that this guy can get the shit rolling the right way.
Yeah, and you saw it in 2022. I mean, he had some questionable moves, and I forget Zach Wheeler getting pulled in Game 6. Kind of cost the team, but up to that point, he made all the right decisions. Everybody around the league talks about how great of a coach he is, how well respected he is, and he's just won the Phillies their first division title since 2011. So he has all the tools. I just think baseball is all about momentum. And the Phillies had none of it going into the postseason this year, some last year, a ton the previous year. So I think it's all about momentum because then that fuels Rob Thompson to make the right decisions. But going back to Stott, his lefty, he's batting .223 against lefties this year. His slugging, .277. The league average is .414, so well below average. And you're trying to win. I have no doubt in my mind Bryson Stott's going to be a perennial all-star in the next few seasons. But right now, when you're trying to win, someone like Edmundo Sosa or Weston Wilson, who's batting over 300 against lefties, I think that I don't really necessarily think it's hampering his development at all. He's still got 112 at-bats against lefties. So I just think I don't know what kind of approach he needs to take. He's very good at taking pitches, draws a lot of high count at bats. So I don't know specifically what to do. That's not my job to figure out. That's Kevin Long's and Bryson Stott's. But yeah. But also going back to Trey Turner, you look at somebody like Francisco Lindor. Lindor is in his 4th season with the Mets. The previous 3 years, people were saying he was the most overpaid player in the league. Finished 9th in MVP voting twice. Didn't make an all-star. But look at him this year. He's most likely going to be the NL MVP runner-up, and he was 2 wins away from the World Series. He's the best player on the second-best team in the National League this year. So I think Trey Turner, in time, I think he'll have one season where he just breaks out, and that might be his only good season with the Phillies at least. I mean, Lindor's 30 now, and Trey is 31, so could be slightly different, but it's an interesting note because these two have been compared a lot.
They have. And I listen, I'm a Lindor fan. Like, I've always been a Lindor fan. I loved him when he was in Cleveland. And listen, he got the bag. I get it, right? He got the bag and he didn't produce. But you saw the kind of player he is. He's a very heady baseball player. Respects the game, understands the game, plays it the right way. I really like that guy. I'm glad that he was able to come back. And the other thing about him is, here's a guy who's got the bag, guaranteed contract, but getting 4 hours of treatment a day just to be able to play, right? Like, people forget about that, bro. Like, you got a guy like Deebo Samuel that's coughing on the field. He's running off. He can't play, right, in the NFL. And you got Lindor, who's got a back that's ready to break in half, that is getting 4 hours of treatment a day to play, man. So shout out to him for that, man. Listen, that's the Philly kind of player. I'll tell you that 100%. Now, Rich checking in says, what moves do you think Dombrowski will make this offseason? And Adam says, is Hayes or Marsh coming back? This is going to be, listen, I think they've already alluded to it, that he said Castellanos and Marsh, and then we'll see. So they feel like, listen, but Marsh is not an everyday player. I think we know that, right? We understand that. So you have Castellanos, but you have to go out there and get a bona fide power bat in the outfield. And, listen, whatever this Austin Hayes experiment was, it was terrible. It didn't work. For whatever reason, it didn't work. He was definitely not the guy that I thought he was, right? So, and again, I wouldn't have given up top prospects for guys like Luis Robert. I would have not done that. Definitely wouldn't have done that. But I do think, listen, you got guys like, you know who's perfect for this team, man? But obviously we're not getting him, but he's with the Dodgers now. I was thinking Teoscar Hernandez. A guy like a Teoscar Hernandez to come in, just be that power bat, the guy that can play the field, he can do it, whatever. That's the kind of guy. Is that guy out there, Tyler?
I definitely think it could be. You have a ton of options in the outfield. I mean, Hernandez is currently scheduled to be a free agent. I don't think he's going to make it to free agency. I think the Dodgers are going to re-sign him.
I didn't know that.
A lot of good options.
Jim,
a ton of good options.
Yo, my man. I'm sorry, Ty. My man Jim just showed up. I sent a Facebook message, and I was like, oh, why should you send me a Facebook message? And, my man, what's up, brother? How you doing? Oh, great to see you, man. So he's saying Teoscar only signed a 1-year deal. Did you know that, Tyler? I didn't know that.
He's going to be a free agent.
So
I don't think he's going to make it. I don't think he's going to make it unless they win the World Series and he's like, hey, I broke out. I have a ring now. I think he won the home run derby. So what's to say he's not going to get the bag from whoever's going to pay him? So what's to say the Phillies aren't going to get him? He is currently scheduled to be a free agent. But a lot of good guys. I mean, obviously, I think they're all in on Juan Soto. I really do. I don't know if they're going to get him, but I think they're all in on him. I think he's option A, and then they have backup plans if they don't get him.
Yo, I'll tell you what, man. What do you think, Juan Soto? I got to get you a microphone. You want to sit here with a microphone? Hold on, man. Tyler, we're going to pause this for a second. We're going to do this live. Let me grab this microphone, my man, Jim. We're getting this microphone right here, brother. Oh, good, man. Thank you.
The document originated from the USA.
There you go.
This is breaking news. Deebo Samuel was hospitalized. There's no timetable for his return.
Oh, really? So I just buried Deebo, and now he's in the hospital. So I look like a real piece of shit, don't I? Yo, my man Jim, look, long time listener. My man Jim is here. Check us out, Pike Spot Tyler. You see Jim always checking in online. So Jim, what do you think, man? What do you Phillies want to do?
All right. Well, listen, there's a great business case for bringing Juan Soto to the Phillies. You could pay him $55 million a year for a decade, and he will pay off in spades. The guy he's exactly what the lineup needs. A guy who's all contact, good batting eye, walks more than he strikes out.
He's a
huge power bat. Yeah, not a great outfielder, but
we can live with that.
I'd put him in left field and walk away from Marsh and Hayes. Which, by the way, both those guys. If they stay with the Phillies, that's $10 million right there. So you're gonna pay $10 million for those two, or do you just pay $55 for Juan Soto? Give yourself that third piece, anchor of the lineup, who really makes. I mean, Trey Turner is going to look a lot better in this lineup if he's the third best player.
That's a good point.
So
that's a good point.
So I would say I agree with Tyler in that. I think Middleton's all in. Doesn't mean we're going to get him. But I think, kind of like Yamamoto last year, we kind of came up short.
We did. We went for it, though.
Yeah, exactly.
We went for it, right?
So that's my thought is that, yes, they will be all in on Soto. I don't know that I expect to get him. I mean, the Yankees gave up a lot of talent to lose him after just 1 year and get like a compensation pick. I can't see that really happening. But
especially after this postseason so far.
Exactly.
Oh my God, that would be crazy. Now Javon says if I'm the Phillies, I try to go out there Santander, who you mentioned, Tyler, or try to trade for Brent Rooker.
They should have gotten at the deadline.
Yeah, but I don't know if I want to trade, man. I don't think, you know what I mean? Like, I want these young guys. We're getting to that point where, we got to bring some of these younger guys up eventually, man. We can't be getting rid of all of them, So I think I want to keep that down there. But Santander, man, now, is he a free agent, Tyler?
He is.
I like him. I like him.
He's a good bat.
He's a nice player.
A little bit more swing and miss, which, I don't know that I want to bring in if I can help it. But
that's
again,
true.
Another good power bat.
That's true.
And a better outfielder. So, he's a good, I think he's a more solid outfielder than Soto would be. Or another guy who, if you just, again, looking at trying to get rid of some of the swing and miss, Jurickson Profar. So he signed a
like
1 year,
him a lot.
$1 million deal. He played for $1 million last
Did he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's going to get more than that now, obviously, but he's a guy who does not strike out that often. He's under, I think well under 20% K rate, and his walk rate is almost the same. So it's he's a guy with a good eye.
I like him a lot.
Contact rate,
speed,
a little bit, yeah.
Good defenseman,
and he can play infield a little bit too. I think he's been mostly outfield the last couple of years, but
yeah,
he started off as a second baseman, I believe, in Texas organization.
Ooh, I like that name. See, that's why we got our guys. We got Jim, we got Tyler here. I can't remember all this, man, which is awesome. Now, Rich says Middleton says no limit on the checkbook, which obviously that's a good thing. Javon says here's something to think about: acquire Rooker and Mason Miller, hypothetically speaking, which. That was a trade deadline thing, right? I mean, we talked about that, but I just think you got to give up too much, man. You got to give up too much.
I agree. And Mason Miller's a guy with an elbow issue already. Do you want to, for me, Painter's coming up this year.
Yes.
And if you try to talk to the A's about Miller, Painter's going to be the first guy they bring up. So I'm not doing that.
Me neither.
And to me, Rooker's a DH. So if he's got a stone glove. I don't want him in the field at all. So unless you're getting rid of Kyle a year early, I don't know that we can carry. You can't carry a Schwarber and a Rooker on the same roster.
That's a good point.
So,
Tyler, what do you think about Bohm?
Alec Bohm. People are linking the Phillies to Alex Bregman. No reliable sources.
Okay.
That's just people saying, "Oh, he's the top third baseman. Let's go get him." You look at who's free agents. Maybe you bring in Gio Urshela as a depth piece, as a platoon guy, maybe, but I feel like another team would probably pay him a lot more. And there's nobody that pops out. I mean, Bregman's 31. Eugenio Suarez is going to be there. That's a club option. I don't know if they're going to pick it up. Yoel Moncada hasn't looked the same in a couple of years. There's not really a strong third base market. And I don't know off the top of my head who'd be available in the trade market, which I don't think the Phillies are going to be super in on. I think they might make one trade, if any. But yeah, third base, I think Bohm solidified it. I know terrible finish to the year, but I still think that's his spot. I think that's locked up.
Yeah, I'm not giving up on Bohm. I don't know why everybody wants to give up on Bohm. I mean, he's a young guy, man. Like, Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? I know he had a problem and stuff like that, but you're not ready to give up on him, are you?
Yeah. Listen, hand issue for a hitter. Yeah, that's not good. You're not going to finish the year strong coming back with a hand issue. I think Bohm had a fine year up until the injury. I think he should. Assuming they never really said what it was either. I'm curious. I thought it was a hamate bone.
That a lot of people thought that. I think he needed surgery. He was trying to play through it.
I'm wondering if he's going to have surgery in the offseason.
I think that's going to come out.
But I wouldn't. Though for me, Bohm's your third baseman until Aiden Miller's ready to come up, and you let him walk at that point, because I don't think I would, even if Aiden Miller wasn't there, I don't think I'd pay Alec Bohm free agent money.
No, and that's definitely going to come up soon.
Yeah, yes,
that's going to come up soon.
Yeah.
Now, Adam wants to know, is Crawford ready to come up and play center field? Now, there's a name. I don't know, man.
Not in April.
Another year.
Yeah,
another year.
I don't even know if it's a whole year, but he had 220 AA at bats. You need more. Yeah, you definitely need more.
Now, I think the other thing will be Garrett Stubbs. I think, listen, as much as I love Garrett, and it's Rafael Marchand is going to be the back. I mean, I think we all agree on that, right?
I think so. Although I'm not as high on Marchand as like most of the bases. I mean, the guy had 51 at bats in the majors. He did fine. I mean, it was a good 51 at bats. But if you look at his minor league record, he had, so in 51 at bats, he had 3 home runs. And it's like, hey, that's awesome. In 1,500 minor league at bats, he had 9 home runs.
Wow, 1,500.
1,500. Yes.
That's a lot of power.
So I think you have to look at his minor league stats and look at that and say, okay, that's really the indicator of what kind of hitter he is. Versus now, again, he hit like 260 in the minors. That's not bad. But you're going to get a punch and Judy hitter who's had injury issues.
That's true. That's true.
Yet the fan base is like, he's the guy. Get rid of JT. And
people are idiots.
You can't do that.
Yeah, people are idiots.
Now listen, as a part-time player, if can he play 40 games and JT plays 120 if he can stay healthy? then I think that's great.
Yeah, that's all I want.
Yeah.
That's all I want. And I know the people that want to get rid of JT are knuckleheads, man. Like, I mean, come on. Like, now Adam's already asking how many more years do you think JT has? Listen, people have to remember. Yeah.
That's the contract.
Exactly. The contract is he's got one left. And also remember that he did have a meniscus injury that he did cut. Like, that's not easy. Everybody thinks he's like RoboCop. You know what I mean? Like, this guy is, invincible, but he was obviously hurting, man. Like, but he was their best option. So everybody's got to back up on the JT hate a little bit, I think. They have to relax and understand that, this dude was playing and he still was a top level catcher throwing guys out. I mean, I don't think some of them, Tyler, some of those throws right to the bag were unbelievable. I mean, listen, I don't care about the bat. It'll come back. He'll be okay. I'm all good with JT. But what about the relief pitching? We talked about Estevez, but how about everybody else? Now, what do you do there? I mean, we went from stud, all-stars and Schramm and Hoffman and Alvarado's this guy and Estevez, and now it's like, who do we have? Like, I mean, what do we do with this bullpen, man? Like, are you okay with, bring obviously Schramm's back because he's under contract, but what, you mentioned about Hoffman, you like Hoffman, you think you bring Hoffman back, he's going to want some money, right? What do you do with Alvarado though? That's the question.
Here's a name to look out for. Tanner Scott. He was a trade deadline target.
I like him.
Got traded to the Padres for an absolute haul. Padres gave up a ton of really good prospects for him. And I really do. With Dombrowski saying there's no limit on the checkbook, he's probably the top reliever besides Hoffman. That's in the free agent market. So I really do think that he's a very, very possible option for the Phillies. He's a lefty. He could take over the Alvarado role.
Yeah. Love Tanner Scott.
Now, what if you had to do one or the other? If you say you could pay one guy, Tanner Scott or Jeff Hoffman?
I'd probably take Tanner Scott. He's got the better track record.
Yeah, that's what I think.
In more high leverage situations. Again, love what Hoffman's done while he was here. He's been great, but
great story.
If you can only bring one back, then I'm bringing Tanner Scott. I mean, I wanted him at the trade deadline, but not for what San Diego gave up.
Yeah, that was a lot, man.
Especially just to potentially lose him.
They
probably will lose him because I don't think they can go dollar for dollar with most of the other teams.
No, they can't. They just gave Manny that huge extension, right? So they're pretty tied up now. Yeah. Other question is talking about the rotation, right? Like, you look at Rangers. What Ranger Suarez? Like, what do we make with this Ranger Suarez situation? I listen. I know he gutted it out, had a great performance, and I put my hat off to him. Right? Still wasn't the pitcher we saw in the first 2 months of the year. I mean, is this something that we really need to take an eye test for and be like, will he ever be that guy again? Or was it just like, look, maybe the guy had dead arm. He was stretched out for the first time in his career. But we heard this, Tyler, last year. Oh, he came in, he had a full offseason. He no visa issues. He got here. What's your take on Ranger Suarez, bro?
I think he's got his spot locked up. I don't think he has I don't have any concerns with him. That might be crazy to say, but I mean, look at his innings pitched this year. He pitched 150 this year. I mean, he's been pitching a lot in the last couple seasons. He's finally a full-time starter, so he's probably still getting adjusted to that because his first 3-4 years in the league, he was primarily a reliever. So I think he'll be better this year or this upcoming year. And I think that 1 through 4 in the rotation set. It's Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, Sanchez. And then that fifth spot, they're going to use the first 2 months of the season to figure out between Taijuan Walker, between Andrew Painter, and I'm sure they're going to bring in another, like a Spencer Turnbull-esque player. I don't know if it's going to be Turnbull, but like a low-end reliever that they can get for cheap that can go down to the minors if they need him to. Lance Lynn is older. Maybe they give it to him. So someone like that. I don't think it's going to be Turnbull. I think that ship has sailed. Pitched fine in the beginning of the year, but he was just hurt. So I think that fifth spot is going to be down to 3 people. Like I said, Walker, his last chance, Painter, the up-and-coming top prospect, and a free agent acquisition. Low risk, high reward.
What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, so I agree with almost all of that. I believe, though, that Painter will probably start the year in the minors, only from the standpoint of innings management. So, I think, it's a great sign that he's pitching in the fall league. That's great.
Yeah.
That's a little, it was unexpected. That's great. That means that they're pretty happy with, how he looks. But I still think when you look at Painter, the last time he pitched was 2 years ago. That minor league season, I think he was at about 100 innings, maybe about 104. If you want him to be available in October, you're going to have to manage him very carefully at the beginning of the year. So my guess is he pitches in spring training a little bit. They send him to the minor league camp. They probably ramp him up slowly in April and maybe even May. And at that time, they're giving Walker his final chance, is my guess, to prove that he can, that he found 3 or 4 miles an hour in the offseason. And his pitches are more effective then. But my guess is by June, that they will bring Painter up. He'll get that 5th spot. I mean, there's no, even if Walker's pitching like average Taiwan Walker, Painter's, head and shoulders above the best outing that, Walker can ever put together. So that's my guess, because that way he should be able to manage his innings through the playoffs and keep him under, let's say under 135, 140, which is probably about the max you can expect to stretch his arm out, after 2 years off.
I agree 100%. I'm excited. Like I'm definitely excited about that, because I want to see the young guy pitch, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. We want to see these young guys. We've heard about them. We keep hearing the progress. So we want to see that. Taiwan Walker, man. Like I will give Taiwan Walker his flowers though. Like as much as he sucked, right? He took the bad press, right? He stood up to the media, answered the questions. He was the first guy in the dugout. He was the biggest cheerleader for the team, right? He didn't have to do that. Like and all the idiot fans that like had to like trash the guy, and he had to get off of social media because they were so relentless, and that's just a fragment of this idiotic fan base that we have sometimes. But I really like what he did. And I think that shows a lot. And I think, that shows that he's willing to work. He honestly looked like he was like, I don't know what's wrong. Like, he's like, I don't know what's going on. Like, he really didn't know. So I do think that at least that gives us hope that he'll be able to try to turn it around and give us something. I don't think this will be an Adam Eaton kind of thing. Jim says I give him credit, or Richie says I give him credit. Walker did say he didn't pitch well. Look, exactly, took the blame. That takes a bold man to be able to do that, man. Like, I don't think Trey Turner does that if it's Trey Turner, but Taiwan Walker does do that. So, look, I think there's a lot of questions about it. And the other thing is, too, the Mets are going to be better, right? They got 2 big guys coming off their payroll in Verlander and Scherzer. So they're going to be out there looking to spend some money. They're going to spend some Steve Cohen money. Right, Atlanta's going to be back, right? And those injuries, or Ozzie Albies is going to be fine. Acuna is going to be back. I mean, Spencer Strider, these guys are going to be back. So this isn't going to get any easier, right? I mean, it's not going to get any easier. So I don't think a lot of people are saying the window is closed. It's not closed for me, but it's like on that next rung. Like, it's not wide open anymore. I do think it's coming down. But I think I'll say 2 years. So, Jim, I say 2 years that we have with this kind of core. What do you think?
So I think I agree with the fact that there is the potential to keep the window open longer if Painter and Crawford and Miller are all as advertised. So that's risky. I mean, what's the chance that all 3 of them become stars? True. It's usually unlikely. True. You might hit on 1 or 2.
Yeah, but, definitely unlikely.
Yeah. But if they really are as advertised, then I think you can make the moves now that can keep the window open. So that's.
No, I like it. I like bring the young guys, right? I mean, we need that energy. Javon checking this says, I think the Phillies might take the approach of Painter, how the Pirates did with Paul Skeens this season. That Tyler, you're pointing at. You were a big Paul Skeens guy. You talked about it. You think that's what they're going to do, right?
I had my Paul Skeens stats ready to go. I was ready to go. Next time, so I'm glad Javon said something. He got called up on May 8th, pitched 133 innings, started in the All-Star game, a 1.96 ERA. I don't think Painter's going to be that good, but I definitely think they're going to manage him in a similar spot. I mean, you look at his one game. He had a no-hitter in the 6th, 7th inning, and their manager pulled him. The innings management. They wanted him ready because the Pirates at that time, they were pushing for a wild card spot. So I 100% agree with Javon. They're going to manage him like Paul Skeens.
I'll tell you what, if he's 85% Paul Skeens, man, we're gonna be we got something special. Yeah. I mean, that dude, I swear, like Paul Skeens, I did not know until I started watching him. I was like, holy hell, man, this dude is electric, right? I always get worried, man, like with so many Tommy John surgeries and these guys, because they throw so many innings before they even come up. I'm just always like, please, I don't want to see them get hurt. You know what I mean? Because baseball needs this. I'm a baseball fan first and foremost. I never want to see people go down. That's why I said, look, I was happy to see Edwin Diaz back. Like I want to see a guy like that. I think he's electric. Like I want to see him back. Sucks that he closed us out, but I still want to see him back, right? So yeah, listen now let's skirt over to football. Now let's skirt back to football and talk about these birds before we go to intermission. But you know, I do have to continue to ask, and you know, is the faith renewed? Is the faith restored? You know, are we okay? Sirianni, are we back on the Sirianni train? Are we back on the Vic Fangio train? A guy, Rich, before he left, just said, "Look, we haven't given up any touchdowns in 2 games, 12 points. I think we had like 13 sacks in 2 games." You know, but again, it's the Browns and it's the Giants, so you know. I don't know how to take. And listen, Cincinnati's not any better. So, like, I mean, but then you have to play devil's advocate, right? When people say, well, these are the games you're supposed to win, right? So I get it, but it's like, I don't know what to think, man. So, Tyler, like, you look at this and say, okay, are 100% like, are you saying, I'm convinced we turn the corner, we're on the upswing and we're back?
It's tough. I don't think that they are 100% back, but I think they are on the right track. And like you said, playing devil's advocate, these are games you're supposed to win. Last week against Cleveland, they didn't look good. They really didn't. This week against the Giants was the first time all season where it felt like a comfortable win, where everything was going right. Question marks with Jalen Hurts. He missed a lot of wide open reads and took sacks. Something to maybe keep an eye on. But the Giants and Browns are terrible. And I'm glad they won both games because, you know, that proves that they're still legit. And then in your next 4 games, Bengals, Jags, Cowboys, and then you got the Commanders right after that. So you got some tough games coming up. And it's good that they're getting the wins in now because, I don't know, you got Baltimore too, Pittsburgh. I mean, are they going to be any better with Russ? And since he's got a really good offense, I don't care what people say. I know they don't look great, but they still have Joe Burrow, who's a top 5 quarterback. They have Jamar Chase, who's a top 5 receiver. And you got to worry about T. Higgins, too. So interested to see how Quinyon Mitchell's going to do because he's been one of the best corners in the league this year. And so I'm curious if they're going to put Slay on Jamar or are they going to put Quinyon on him? Which one's going to go on T? But I'm not 100% sold on the Eagles yet. I need to see a little bit more in the coming weeks. So yeah, I still had my rankings last night. I have them as a wild card team. I don't see them as more than that right now. But Kellen Moore's offense looked a lot more integrated yesterday. Hurts he showed flashes, but he also showed a lot of red flags. So they showed enough to where I'm like, okay, I'm comfortable with where they're at. I just need to see them get better.
That's valid. That's valid. Now you mentioned about Hurts. Now, Jim, the thing about Hurts that scares me is like just the way he's so lackadaisical with the ball. Like no matter what, man. Like, you know, I watch him. It's like he just feels like he's got all the time in the world, and he doesn't feel that rush coming. He has no forward thinking for that. I don't understand where that came from. Is it something that he got lucky with when he did go off because he had tremendous offensive line movement in front of him, but now I feel like he just looks like he's exposed.
Yeah, Hurts is definitely the thing that still scares me the most about the offense. Why he's obviously he has talent, but my thing is, if defenses confuse him, then he does hold the ball too long. He gets sacked. He gets strip sacked.
Yes.
Or he makes a bad throw because there's pressure coming, and he misses too many open guys early. So if there's a guy that isn't his primary read, but he's open, he just doesn't see him, and that's
that with Devontae Smith. That Devontae Smith, it was wide open
right across the and then even the Barkley coming out of the backfield at the end zone, he could have walked in. If he just saw him, and Hurts never even looked. So that's what concerns me. It takes him too long to recognize what's happening pre-snap and at the snap that he misses things. So that still concerns me. But I also think that for the first time in since they started winning with Nick as a coach, they went run heavy.
Yes.
And it hid a lot of the deficiencies. So I think if you become that run first team, just give the ball to Saquon, let him put Hurts in a lot of second and short, third and short, where there's so much of the offense can be open that the defense can't key on anybody. That is a key, and hopefully Nick finally understands that and allows them to run. So, I think a 2-to-1 ratio run to pass makes sense for this team.
It 100% does. I mean, that's why you pay a guy like Saquon, right? I mean, the Javon's not going to say things that the key to Hurts and the Eagles' success is the running game. If they do what they did yesterday, I think it will improve for him 100%, man. Like, and I just don't understand why, if we all can see it, why they don't see it. And maybe they don't want to see it. Like, we don't know. But I think yesterday I just saw a different moxie about the team. I saw a different, like, even Jalen. I saw a different Jalen yesterday. Not from his skills or his talents, but like when he scored and he was jawing back to the fans and he showed more emotion than I've seen the entire year. And I don't know if maybe I don't know what it is, to be honest with you. I don't know, maybe he's that guy that fights with himself to say, I've been trained myself to be so controlled for so long that I can't come out of my shell. Like, maybe he's actually fighting himself internally. I don't know. Javon says that's what made him a success in 2002, a balanced offense with the running game and Hurts tossing 20-25 passes. Exactly. Yesterday, 114 yards, 117 yards. He was the fourth best quarterback of fantasy because he threw for a touchdown and rushed for 2 touchdowns, right? I mean, that's what you want. That makes him productive. And again, they even went back to the tush push yesterday, which my fantasy team didn't enjoy that because I had Saquon. I want another touchdown, right? I was being greedy. I was like, come on, twice. You got to do the tush push twice. Like, come on, man. But it was nice to see them get back. And I kind of do like, I think the defense, it was going to always be a work in progress. I think maybe my mind is, and tell me if you guys agree, that maybe Vic threw too much of a change right in the beginning. And after those first few games, maybe he finally said, the guy's a student of the game, right? He's a veteran. So he was like, all right, I got to work a little bit, ease us back a little bit more with these guys, put them in different. And all of a sudden now it's starting to look like a Vic Fangio kind of defense. So I think maybe, I don't know, or maybe they just start to get. What do you think, Tim?
Well, I hope.
God, I like that. Yes.
It is. I'll say this, too soon to tell. The jury's still out.
Yeah, 100%.
But I've been encouraged with the results of the last 2 weeks. Now, again, those teams were not good offensively. Deshaun Watson is a terrible quarterback.
Oof.
Daniel Jones is maybe a half a step up. So you're not dealing with top flight offenses. You're not dealing with a top flight quarterback who might be able to carve you up.
Exactly.
So that's why I'm like, listen, I'm encouraged. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yes.
And let's see, like, if they can do this with Joe Burrow next week, then I'm going to feel a lot better. Because now it's the first time you're going to face a good quarterback.
Yes.
And with good talent around him. And let's see what happens.
I like that. No, it's true. I mean, the jury's still out. I do like that, the fact that we did get to the quarterback. I do like the fact, Listen, that kid, that Cooper DeJean, man, he's there's a reason why, you knew, right? I always say this, like, when it comes from, I look at even the Sixers. When we talk about Jared McCain, a lot of people would talk about Jared McCain. We should have got him with Dalton Connect, and I know my buddy Dave Gleckner that comes on at about 8:15. He's going to talk about that. But the thing is, Jared McCain comes from a program, in Duke that builds, a specific culture, a specific kind of player. And I think that's what I loved about Cooper DeJean is he had that mindset of he's always going to be the best he can be, and he's always going to work to be the best he can be. And that's a Philly mentality. And he has the skills too. And I love that they put him in that finally, like, no disrespect to Avonte Maddox, but he just wasn't being that guy this year. And to see them put him in, listen, Cooper DeJean, Tyler, he's made some really good plays, and he's shown the ability. He's got closeout speed. Yes, his football IQ is very high, but he's still, this is still going to take some time, right? But he's shown the ability to be trusted out there in that secondary, and he could be the guy holding it all together.
And you look at this draft, this could have major implications on the defense for the next 10 to 15 years. You could easily have drafted your corner 1 and corner 2 in your first two picks this year, with Quinyon Mitchell, who looks like an absolute stud so far, with Cooper DeJean, who he doesn't have a large sample size yet, but from what he's played so far, he looks like he's a star in the making for this defense. So he could be a glue guy, and you have pieces there for the future. You have him. You have Reed Blankenship, who looks really good. And then you got Carter and not so much Jordan Davis, but you have pieces there for the future that are starting to finally produce. So I think when others are producing, that makes the rookies play better because they want to make a name for themselves. They're a rookie. What do they have? They don't have anything. They have to owe everything to the team. I'm trying to word that right. But yeah, but going back to Joe Burrow, the D-line, I'm glad they have had their breakout in the last 2 weeks because Burrow's a top 5 quarterback when it comes to being sacked. So this offensive line is not that good. Orlando Brown was dealing with an injury. So how do you force Joe Burrow to not get the ball to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? You sack him before he can even throw the ball.
Isn't that crazy, man? Like I maybe it's just me, but the Cincinnati Bengals, I feel, have not had a good offensive line in like 10 years. Like they pay Joe Burrow all this money, right? And they don't even protect him. Like it boggles my mind that they don't protect this guy. It is absolutely crazy. And I'll tell you what, I don't know if you guys watched last night, but that was a clinic put on by Russell Wilson. Okay, can we finally say, like, Tyler, were you in the Justin Fields or the Russell Wilson camp?
I will admit, I did say that the Steelers probably should have started Justin Fields just because he was 4-2, and you're going to bench your quarterback when you're 4-2. And he was still playing decent. He was getting a lot of rushing touchdowns. So I was on board with Justin Fields. Now, before the season, I said Russ because Russ he didn't have that bad of a year last year. I just think he didn't fit in the offense. He didn't really have that many weapons. But with the Steelers team, he fit the offense, and he has George Pickens. He has Najee and Jalen Warren. So before the year, I was full on board with Russ. But as the season, Justin Fields came in after Russ got hurt. And Fields wasn't playing great, but he was playing good. But great move in hindsight so far from Mike Tomlin. And this is why he's one of the best coaches in the league.
The best, by the way, the best, because I'm going to say that, right? And what you just said is, and what was specific about what Tomlin said when asked, he said, good, not confused with great. And I say that, I love that statement. When he asked about Justin Fields, he said, good, not to be confused with great. And he threw 5 touchdowns in 6 games, right? So if you do that for 17 games, okay, that's not enough. 15 to 17 touchdowns is not enough. Okay. And I think this was the time for him to do it. And I am fully on board. I was on the Russ wagon. I continue to be on the Russ wagon that he got done dirty last year, in my opinion. And I think that this is the perfect scenario with him because he needs that high profile running attack like he had in Seattle to be successful. And he has this right now with 2 guys, right? And he needs that big tight end. in Freiermuth, who he has, and the ball, the trajectory of his throws with a guy like George Pickens who can go up and get the ball is huge. So I was all in on the Russ decision for him to start. What about you?
Yeah. Listen, I mean, Russell Wilson's just a better quarterback.
Yes.
I mean, Justin Fields can run.
Yep.
But if the Steelers think that they're a playoff team that's going to go a week or two or more into the playoffs, then Russ has to be the guy.
Yep.
Fields can get you to the playoffs probably, but he's not going to win when you get there.
No, it's exactly why they made the move, man. Exactly. And I will say this, like, speaking of quarterback play, you look around the NFL, man, and just the quarterback play in general has been so bad. Like it's Patrick Mahomes. Like, everybody's talking about Jalen Hurts. So can we talk about Patrick Mahomes? Look like garbage. Like, he does not look good at all. I mean, and again, like, I talked about this being the year that Travis Kelce takes the step back, and we're seeing it, right? We're seeing it. I think he's finally, he's enjoying the celebrity life a bit too much, right? And I think that's very apparent. And I don't think you're going to ever see the Travis Kelce that we once saw before. But we just look around. I mean, even, Trevor Lawrence, I mean, look, obviously he has been putrid. I mean, listen, I'll be honest with you. How ironic is this, guys, that Doug Peterson wins a Super Bowl, he gets his legacy beating New England Patriots, and he essentially probably saved his job from beating the Patriots yesterday, even though the Patriots stink. Okay, but he had to do it. And I look like Drake May is actually outproducing some of these quarterbacks. And I don't know, man. I just think that, I think, what's up, Brian? I just think that we have to sit there and maybe just finally just say, all right, look, our guy's not perfect. And he's not going to be perfect. But if you look around the NFL, I still think that he's head and shoulders, probably, I would say, like 15, maybe like a top 15 quarterback right now. Would you say top 15? In that like 12 to 15 range?
Drake May?
No, Jalen Hurts.
Okay. Oh, Jalen Hurts. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I don't think you can put him lower than that.
Jalen Hurts stinks. You got to say Jalen Hurts stinks.
He's definitely in this. I mean, I still think of Hurts as a top 10 quarterback, but towards the back of the top 10.
Yeah,
I'd have to go through all 32 to rank him for real, but he's top 10, but maybe 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, I think I was a top 10 guy, and I think now I'm like top 15. I don't see, I don't know what he's lost, but I just think that maybe the league caught up after that year, and now he can't adjust. And I don't know if he ever is going to be able to adjust. I think kind of like we saw the ceiling of what Jalen Hurts is. And I think now that's why, and I'll be honest with you, don't think like a lot of people are burying Howie Roseman, but don't think for a second maybe he didn't feel this way either, which is why he went out and got Saquon Barkley, saying that I know this guy does need a little help. You know what I mean? Javon says Jordan Love has been a high performer, but look at him tossing 2 INTs in a game. Exactly. Like even Jordan Love, a guy who's thrown 35 touchdowns last year, right? He's still throwing picks. He's like, it's just crazy to me. And I don't know if it's because we're seeing such an emphasis on being like in practice, everything's like a country club now, right? Like everything's just like you can't hit anybody. I think that the weirdest thing is these guys tackling with donuts is like so ridiculous. Like, how do you even work on tackling when you're an inflatable donut? So crazy. But look, Sam Darnold, right? Like Darnold coming out of nowhere, right? Like it's just crazy. He looks better, right? Dak looks terrible. Like, I'll tell you what, man. Thank God. I'd much rather have Hurts than Dak. I don't care what anybody says right there, right? I don't think I'm alone there. But how about Baker? We're going to see him play tonight at 8:15. We're getting it on the other side. But Baker, man, I'd love to have Baker, man. I am a Baker guy. What about you, Ty? You a Baker guy?
I love Baker. I don't get how people can still not be on the Baker train. If he pulls off the victory tonight, I know I'm looking at Sports Illustrated odds. Apparently, these are via FanDuel. Baker's not even top 10 in MVP vote.
Really?
Odds, he's plus 2,500 right now. Mahomes is plus 370 in first, which is absolutely ridiculous. He has more interceptions than he does touchdowns. The fact that Baker isn't a top 3 candidate, because I think right now, because Derrick Henry should be, but the NFL will never give that award to a non-quarterback. So right now, the top 3, in no particular order, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, and Lamar Jackson. And even Josh Allen. Like, I feel like Baker, even top 5. But the fact that Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, and Patrick Mahomes are above him, I think that's blasphemous. I really do.
That's ridiculous, man.
Well, and is that just, again, I'm not a bettor, but is that just where that's where the money is, and that's why the line is what it is?
Pretty much.
Because I mean, there's a lot of people looking at it like, oh, last year, who were the best quarterbacks? Well, that's where I'm going to put my money.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, Baker, I would think, again, if I was more of a betting man, I'd put some money on Baker. He's definitely better than the guys ahead of him, or at least a bunch of the guys ahead of him.
He's been fantastic. He really has, man. I like it too, because he got a lot of flack, and he finally, they bought into him, man. When you put in confidence into a player, it's amazing how much they really they really carry on for your team, and he is a guy who, listen, the players play for him, the coaches love him. The fans love him. Everything about him, man. Like, he'll run through a wall, man. Again, what is this? My man Mike checking it says, "Is it me, or is this the most handsome vlog ever?" I don't know, man. It might be. It might be.
Get your eyes checked.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, Mike. Mike, glad to see you checking in, brother. Hope all is well with everything going on, man. I don't know, man. Studs, I think my wife would beg to differ with that, but no, one thing about studs, man, is there's a lot of studs. Listen, you mentioned Derrick Henry, Tyler, and before we go to break real quick, I mean, what are you looking at this Baltimore and Tampa Bay game, man? It's in Tampa, Baltimore. What kind of defense are they? Their defense has not been what they're accustomed to. I really, really like Mike Evans tonight. I'm a big Mike Evans guy. I got a lot of bets on Mike Evans. Mikey V, yes, we're gonna get in on the other side, Mike, right after 7:30, when you get into some betting and fantasy talk for this game and for the 9:00 game as well. I got a couple parlays that we set. I don't know if you hit, but I hit a nice big parlay last night for 1080 plus 1080. Hitting a parlay a weekend, which is nice. Plus 3,300 last week, Tyler. Plus 3,300, man. So, what do you think about this game, Tyler?
That it's a common.
ESPN again. ESPN got you again, Tyler. Every time he goes on ESPN.
I think they're a great team. I don't think that's all on Baker. So I think the Ravens are going to win this game. I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people might think it's going to be. But I'm not sold on the Bucs defense yet. And I think the Ravens have really good defense. So I think they're going to maybe, I don't want to say shut down the Bucs, but I don't think the Bucs are going to do as well as they normally do. And I think that Ravens offense is going to drop over 30 points tonight. I know they just put, I think it was Jamal Dean they just put on injured reserve. I don't know. They lost one of their corners. So I'm not sold on this defense. So I'm going betting odds. I'm betting a Derrick Henry rushing touchdown. I'm betting Zay Flowers to get a touchdown. And I'm betting, what's the spread? Do you know the spread off the top of your head?
I don't know the spread, but I know the over and under was a 50.
I would take the over on that. Let me see. Ravens are -4. I would even take that. I really would. I'm all in on the Ravens tonight.
You're all in on the Ravens. What do you think, Jim?
So I would also agree that I think the Ravens have the better, I guess I'd say the better balance. And they have the ability to control the ball with both Lamar running and, of course, with Derrick Henry. I mean, he's just such a beast.
God,
that I don't see Tampa Bay slowing him down much. I think they'll be able to dictate the pace of the game, and I think ultimately they'll be able to impose their will. So,
listen, I like this. Mike says this is what Vegas wants us to think, huh? Yeah, I mean, that normally, listen, what does Mikey Miss always say? What's the line tell you, right? But at the end of the day, I actually think the opposite. I think the Ravens defense has just been horrendous this year. It's not been the same as we're accustomed to. I think that the Tampa Bay offense is balling right now. Chris Godwin is having an MVP style year. He is the number one ranked receiver in fantasy for a reason statistically. I think he's going to be a big problem for them. I'm looking at a three-headed monster with Rashad White, Bucky Irving, and now you have Tucker out there with Sean Tucker. So you have a really good nucleus. And listen, you still have guys like people forget about Sterling Shepard as a number 3 receiver, dude. He was a number 1 receiver before the injuries for the New York Giants. So he could still get it done. So I think that they have too much, to be honest with you. And one guy I think is going to set the tone is Vita Vea in the middle. Will he be able to cause some havoc against Derrick Henry? I mean, that's their only hope, okay, is Vita Vea has to get into that interior. If he doesn't, it could be a long night. But listen, man, I'm going to take a break for about 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes. We're going to build some parlays when we get back. We're going to look at this game. Tyler, man, as always, thanks for joining. As always, man. Great stuff. Go Birds. We'll find out what happens next week. And for me, for my buddy Jimmy, for Tyler, we'll be back in about 5 minutes. All right, fellas, we'll talk to you soon. Here we're back right here live at Pike's Pub, 455 Second Street Pike, right here next to Southampton Beverage, across the street from Maggio's. Make sure you check us out. Again, make sure you're following Pike's Pub on Facebook. Everybody checking in live right now. I know everybody's waiting for these bets and looking at these bets for this betting game. We got the doubleheader tonight, doubleheader Monday Night Football. We talked a little Eagles, we talked a little Birds. We talked a little Phils. We got Dave Gleckner coming up at about 8:15. Yeah, great wings, absolutely great Sammys for sure. Let's go Pikes. That's right, my man Mikey V checking in. Mikey V says, Rich, don't get me wrong. He says, I'm no pro, played many years, but doesn't it seem to throw some great route runners against linebackers, defensive ends, depending on scheme? I was wondering myself yesterday, why not throw Barkley out there and line up AJ in the backfield, make the D think, throw them off their game plan, even if they are as distractions, and set it up for Devontae Smith. That's interesting, Mike. Got to get a little different. Like they took the V-man, put him back there from linebacker and put him in as a blocking presence, which was nice. Definitely. Richie says, I think the Bucks win. Offense is listen, man. Bucks offense is tough, man. It definitely is tough. Again, I put a parlay in tonight. I'll throw this up there for everybody checking it out. They will hopefully listen, man. It's a triple play. Let's get into the triple play right now. This is the HRS triple play live from Pike's Pub. And as always, these numbers are powered by Win Daily Sports. Get over to windailysports.com. Make sure you sign up. Use that code word HEAT, H-E-A-T. You get 50% off. You can get at least a membership for under $25 a month to get all these prop models that we're taking a lot of these numbers from. And right off the bat, man, I looked at these, and 2.5 was my number. And, I talked about this. I listen, there's a three-headed monster out there in Tampa Bay. I talked about it. I understand it. I get it. But you still are going to use what got you to this point, and that is the hands of Rachaad White. Rachaad White is one hell of a pass-catching running back. Okay, he has the hands that you need. His over 2.5 receptions actually is a plus money. I'm going to see if it's still plus money. When I did it earlier, already put this bet in earlier, by the way, was a plus money is over 2.5. This is a guy who's going to get 5 to 6 targets tonight. Okay, that's what he's going to get. He's going to be the guy who gets the ball out of the backfield. Running the ball will be Bucky Irvin and Sean Tucker, but getting the ball will be Rachaad White. And on the other side, we're talking about a guy who's had 12 targets in the last 2 games, at least 8 catches, and that's Rashad Bateman. His over 2.5 receptions for the Ravens was another really good number. Again, a little juiced up. My man Mike says this membership has been the best investment this football season. Thanks for the percentage off, sir. You got it, buddy. As always, man. Thanks for signing up. Much appreciated. That's why I do it, Mike, honestly, because you're not going to get this kind of money anywhere else, honestly, because most places charge per sport, right? And Win Daily, what we do is we charge one price for everything. So glad to have you as part of the Jigsaw crew. And then Mike Evans, man, over 54.5 receiving yards. Now, tell you my logic here. So his over 4.5 receptions. I don't like that number. I never like the over 4.5. It just bothers me, especially with Mike Evans, because Mike Evans is hit or miss. He'll catch 2 balls right in the beginning. He'll go over to the sideline. He'll have a bad hammy. He'll be riding a bike. Next thing you know, he comes in for a touchdown and goes back out. So his snap count is always down every single game. So I don't like the catches. So I like the yards. His over 54.5 yards, because he can get a couple big plays. So I really like the big play capability for Mike Evans tonight. And if you get the over 2.5 for Rachaad White, the over 2.5 for Bateman, and the Mike Evans over 54.5 receiving yards, that's a plus 550. You could actually boost it up to plus 680 as well as a 3-leg parlay. So, and again, like I tell everybody, I bet the single bets as well. Because you want to come out ahead, right? Even if you throw a couple bucks on each one, the odds are listen, I'm going to tell you right now, it's very rare that I see any of these parlays that not one leg hits. Very, very rare. You go back to my track record, it just doesn't happen. Okay, so at least if you get one or two of these, maybe 2 out of the 3, and the third leg doesn't hit, you're going to get your money back that you played, and plus maybe you get a little bit extra as well, a little extra jingle in your pocket, right? And then we're going to do this. We always do. We do the Pike's Pub bonus bet, and I like both of these quarterbacks tonight on the ground. I really do. I'm going to go Baker Mayfield with an anytime touchdown at plus 475. Now, the reason why I like this, okay, the reason why I like this is because I feel like, Baker will take off. He's been taking off a lot. And one thing for sure, when that coverage does break down a little bit, or I said does tighten up for Baltimore, he will take off. Okay, he will take off. So, I think that he will get this. Maybe it might be like first and goal with the 5 or the 4. Bucky Irvin's had some issues trying to get into the end zone, right? They don't really trust Rashad White, so I do think that Baker Mayfield will get the opportunity to score tonight. I think it's a really good play right there, plus 475. That's anytime. What's his rushing yards, Mike? I'm going to look at that right now. I'll pull up the DraftKings app, and I'm pretty sure it was actually, let's see, I think it was in 15 and a half, maybe. Might have been 15 and a half. I'm pulling it up right now on DK. It is his rushing. Oh wow! Listen, you got a super boost going for NBA, so make sure you get involved in that. So Baker rushing right now is over and under is, hold on, it's coming up. Here we go. Over 12 and a half, Mike. So we got over 12 and a half for Baker. I actually like that number. Minus 120 over 12 and a half. Bucky Irvin's actually only over, his over and under 28 and a half as well. Again, 28 and a half minus 125. I do like that. I think Lamar's again 52 and a half. That's pretty high. But I do look at the attempts. One thing you could do, the Baker Mayfield, you can get over 2.5 attempts. Very, very juiced up, but that's minus 175. But if you add that with his rushing, right? And that's what I like to do. So if you like the rushing, you take his attempts and you put that out with the rushing, and you're getting a plus money odds at plus 104. And then if you want to get real cute, okay, and then say maybe he throws one. It's not going to go 2. Maybe just throws 1 touchdown. You get plus 120. So that's a very low end parlay. Okay, a plus 120, but it's still plus money for 3 of those things to happen. But again, I do think he runs over 2.5. He probably runs about 4 or 5 times a night. What about Evans over 60 yards? Prince is asking. I like the 54 and a half, Prince, but I do think that he can get the 70 tonight. I do. I think that they're going to focus on Godwin a lot. I really do. I think they're going to focus on Chris Godwin a ton, and that's why I do like Sterling Shepard tonight to get about 2 to 3 catches in some of that open space. So I do like that. I do think Evans can get up to 70. I do. I think he can get up to 70. So I would take the over at 68. He might get that on 3 catches, to be honest with you. But I do think that he's going to he's going to have a long one tonight. He's going to have a long one tonight. And I think it's going to be like a 30 to 40 yarder. I can see it right now. He's going to have, an up and out route, and he's going to go up and get it. And I think that's going to set the tone for that game. I really do. So I do like the over 60. Now, looking at the receiving numbers, man, were tough tonight. I do have, so everybody knows, I do have a parlay with Justice Hill. His over 32 and a half rushing yards, rushing and receiving over 32 and a half. That's a play I really, really like. And I'll try to type these in as we're going, because I do have these are posted in the Win Daily Discord. But Justice Hill tonight, his over 32 and a half R is a really, really good number. I like that. And then I do like Baker Mayfield for 250. Now his over and under was like 259 and a half. I like 250. I didn't go up to 259.5. I really didn't. Mike says, damn, I'm so off these days. I don't even know if I feel ashamed. Listen, man, it's because Derrick Henry's been absolutely killing it for Baltimore, right? That's why Derrick Henry's been absolutely killing it for Baltimore. And that's why you don't know Justice Hill. Justice Hill's a change of pace guy. He's a change of pace back, right? So that's what we like about Justice Hill. And he gives you that spark, right? He gives you that spark. And this could be the kind of game where maybe, that Baltimore offense wants a little extra spark. That's why I like Rashad Bateman tonight, right? That's why I definitely like Rashad Bateman. But let's see what else we got. I do like here's an IDP bet that I like, and I'll throw this in here. IDP bet, which I love the individual defensive player bets. I like Winfield. Okay, I like his over 5.5 total tackles. That's tackles plus assists. That's a very, very, very good attainable bet right there. And again, I like the IDP market because you can get a lot of value in the IDP market. Now, I got a four leg parlay, okay, that has Justice Hill over 32.5 rushing and receiving. Baker Mayfield 250 plus on the passing yards. Antoine Winfield over 5.5 total tackles. That's tackles plus assists. And then also Zay Flowers over 5.5 receptions. That's a plus 700 hit. Plus 700 hit right there on DK. So I do like that as well. As far as touchdowns tonight, actually, I got one more. Let me give you one more, guys. I know a lot of you guys are waiting for these bets on here. I do post. Oh, you wanted you hold on, Mike. Let me see. You got I already got the Justice Hill R&R. So I can snap that last one. Yeah, hold on, Mike. Let me see if I can it's in my Discord. So let me here, I'll put it down for you. It's Justice Hill over, because you got to get it in 32.5 R&R. And then we're going to plus Baker 250 plus passing yards. Plus you got Winfield over 5.5. Then we're going to break down the NFL week 7 here. And then we got plus, last one is Zay Flowers over 5.5 receptions. And that's equals plus 700. So that's another one. There we go. Hopefully this helps you, Mike. This is another one I like right here. This is, again, that's a plus 700 hit right there. Now, looking around the NFL this week, I thought it was very interesting because, number one, last night, we talked about that game already. I think last night was something that had to happen, right? But then you look at this teams like the Seattle Seahawks, man, like 34-14 over the Atlanta Falcons. You see Kirk Cousins get knocked out of the game. You see Michael Penix throw, but Geno Smith has just been on another level this year. You talk about Russ can still cook. How about Geno can still cook, right? Geno has been a revelation for that team. He really has, which is crazy, man. 2 more touchdown passes in the win, for Geno Smith. Again, this guy, who would have thought that Geno Smith, remember when Pete Carroll said Geno is going to be my guy? Remember when he said Geno is going to be his guy? He said, no way, this dude's out of his mind, right? He said, this dude is out of his mind. Well, guess what? He is the guy. And that's what's crazy about it, man, when you think about it, because I did not think that was going to happen at all. DK is still a man amongst boys. Exactly. 100%, man. Like that dude, did you see him one arm block that I forget the guy he blocked, but he did it with one arm. It's like ridiculous. I always go back to that story. I don't know if everybody's familiar with that story, that when DK was getting drafted and Pete Carroll came in with his shirt off, and he said, and DK looked at him like, man, you're crazy. And he was like, look, man, I just want to make you feel comfortable. And he was showing them that he still got it, right? So that I'll be honest with you, I'm so surprised that Pete Carroll doesn't have a head coaching job right now. I'm assuming it's because he doesn't want one, but I am shocked that he doesn't have a head coaching job right now, because I always thought that he was a guy. Listen, I would have taken Pete Carroll in a heartbeat, man. Like honestly, I would have taken Pete Carroll in a heartbeat. I really, really, really like Pete Carroll a lot. I like what he stands for. I like his coaching philosophy. Now, speaking of coaching philosophy, at the Denver Broncos with a very, listen, they beat a New Orleans team that's absolutely banged up. Again, they had nobody. Okay, they had nobody. The Saints are really banged up. They're going to get some players back, but listen, Bo Nix. Again, I'm talking about Bo Nix. Just doing enough to get the win again. Speaking about doing enough, didn't get the win, but Drake May again throwing for a couple touchdowns at 277 yards. But looks like Dougie P saves his job for another week with a 32-16 win with the Jaguars. How about the Buffalo Bills? Amari Cooper, he gets the score. He gets in the end zone, 34-10 over those Tennessee Titans. Yeah, Rich, Broncos surprise team of the year. Defense is extremely good. And again, they're buying in that philosophy. Listen, Sean Payton knew what he wanted to do. Listen, he let Russ go, obviously. He wanted his own system. He wanted his own scheme. And he's got it, man. And he's doing his thing, man. He's doing his thing. He's like, I was just talking about JJ Burden about Bo Nix. I don't even know who JJ Burden is. Older KC wide receiver. Mike, you gotta listen. I had no idea. I don't even know that name. So you didn't know the newer guys. I didn't know the older guys, right? But listen, Bo Nix was on my radar for fantasy. Bo Nix was on my radar saying, look, he's not a very good NFL quarterback, but he's a very good fantasy quarterback because he's going to get you some points. But again, honestly, he's just doing what he can do to win. He's kind of like a Taysom Hill kind of player that you're forcing in to be more than what he is. But with this team and the way Sean Payton runs an offensive scheme, listen, it's good enough to win, especially with a good defense, man. He's an old Ducks player. Okay, I have no idea. I want to look him up though. Definitely. Bengals take care of the Browns, 21-14. Deshaun Watson, ruptures his Achilles, and you saw it pop. Literally saw it pop on TV. He went back, and it is what it is. Whether you think the guy's a scumbag or not, I mean, he is out for the year. Well, it's going to be interesting to see if he does make his way back. We shall see. You got the Packers. How about the Packers, man? Is Matt LaFleur doing a coach of a year job out there at Green Bay? I'll tell you what, man. They went 24-22. They made CJ Stroud look pedestrian at best. The worst game of his career against the Green Bay Packers. And they come in and they steal one 24-22 against a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, right? So that's a really big win for the Green Bay Packers. Then you have the Colts. And how would you like to be the Colts? And you talk about Anthony Richardson, a guy that you gave up a lot to get, a guy that looks like he could not throw to anybody, man. Like, it's a shame, but this guy is just not good at all right now unless he's running the ball. And obviously they're playing against the Dolphins. And is the Mike McDaniel experiment over? Like, seriously, is it over? This guy, the quirkiness, the new generation of NFL coaches is listen, man. I was not a Mike McDaniel guy. I'm still not a Mike McDaniel guy. And it's showing right now that his system is not working. And by the way, somebody made a great point. I don't want to take ownership for it, but I forget who it was that I was watching so many different sports shows today because I love the national. And actually, it was on Sirius. I was listening to NFL radio, and they talked about McDaniel, and they said, you know what? How, if you know the history of Tua with the concussions and the injuries, how do you not have a viable backup in Miami? I mean, are you kidding? You're really Tyler Huntley and Tim Boyle? They're the guys you're throwing out there. I mean, it's just it's crazy to me. Listen, that team is cooked right now. I don't know when Tua is coming back, what's going to be like when he comes back. But what about the Lions over the Vikings, giving them their first loss? I don't know what Kevin O'Connell was doing in that last minute of the game, punting that ball away. I have no idea why you're not going for it on fourth down. I don't care how many timeouts that you have. The Lions, it's a great feel-good story with the kicker who said he was selling bricks, and then all of a sudden never thought he would be back into the NFL. Here he is with a game-winning kick for the Detroit Lions. I mean, listen, Jared Goff, I saw a stat today that the Detroit Lions right now have more touchdowns than actually Jared Goff had completions, which is like crazy to me because they're just been so dynamic on offense the last couple of weeks. And look, I don't know if it's sustainable. I have no idea because their defense is not very good. And again, obviously losing their all pro in Hutchinson on the corner just stinks, man. So they did say the other day that possibly he could come back this year. We shall see. We shall see, man. I don't know. Sam leaves the Jets. Mike says, look, old Randall playing for the Vikes, man. Remember when Randall was with the Vikings? My God. And Javon says, spring football legend Jake Bates. Loved watching a kick in UFL. Good to see him having success in Detroit. Now, that's a great pull by Javon because Javon covers the UFL. He covers all the alternative football leagues. So he knew who Jake Bates was. I didn't know who Jake Bates was. And here he goes, gets a shot, to do what he needs to do. And kudos to him, man. I love those stories. I really do. I really do love those stories. You're right, Rich. Matt LaFleur is a damn good coach. Rich says also it's insane with Tua and a head injury supposedly in November, may go back. Are the Lions 10-1? Are the Lions the 10-1 Eagles from last year? That's an interesting question, Mike. Are they the 10-1 Eagles from last year? I don't know, man. Listen, they definitely have the offense to not sink. It's just about the defense, man. It's about, are you going to buy into Jared Goff? See, I'm not a Jared Goff guy, right? I've never been a Jared Goff guy, and that's one of the biggest issues. That I don't have any confidence in Jared Goff. I just always think that if he has to step up at that specific time, that I listen, I'm not in on him, man. I'm not. I just feel like he's not going to be the guy to lead this team to a Super Bowl. There's certain quarterbacks that I would say that I've always said that I feel like will never win a Super Bowl, and unfortunately, Jared Goff is one of them. I feel like Kyler Murray is another one. I just look at these guys and say they're not made up. They don't have that moxie. They don't have that mental makeup to be able to win a Super Bowl. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but we shall see. We'll bend and break defense, right? We'll bend, bend but don't break, right? Bend but don't break. They always said that, bend but don't break. Rich says, I think they will because they do have the two-headed monster with Montgomery and Gibbs. But listen, it remains to be seen. But not win a Super Bowl. I just don't think they have enough to win a Super Bowl. Now, you also had, obviously, we talked about the Birds. You got the Rams. 20-15 over Vegas. What you talk about tanking? If the Raiders aren't tanking, man, I don't know what is, bro. Like the Raiders are terrible. And shout out to Max Crosby, who continues to just play at a high level no matter what, man. Like there's a true professional right there. Takes no plays off. His team is tanking and he's still playing 110 miles an hour. So shout out to Max Crosby, for playing at that level, man. Kudos to him for real. You got the Commanders 40-7 over the Panthers, just completely destroy them. Jaden Daniels looks like, I don't know if he'll play. He had a rib issue. Wasn't broken from what I understand, but we shall see what happens with Jaden Daniels if they're very hesitant. And I've said this before, when you talk about the NFL and that extra game, I think it gives these teams a little more leniency for bringing these guys back. I do think that's why the concussion protocol is an extra week, right? And everybody talked about neighbors. I think that you're seeing that Chris Olave is in that same protocol. They're giving them that extra week. So I just think that's the case here. Maybe, but listen, this kid is such a stud, man. Such a stud. Again, I had no idea he was that good. I really didn't. But listen, I love being able to say we're able to watch good football players, and that's what we're doing. The Chiefs still remain undefeated, 28-16 or 28-18 over the Niners. Are we finally seeing the real Brock Purdy? Remember, everybody told me Brock Purdy was Joe Montana. Everybody told me Brock Purdy was unbelievable. He's the next best. He's the best quarterback in the NFL, man. This guy's unbelievable. Now, all of a sudden, it looks like he can't find his way a little bit. Maybe he's exposed because he doesn't have Christian McCaffrey in the backfield kind of covering things up for him, right? Maybe he doesn't have that ability that we all thought. Maybe those receivers were able to make those plays for him. But Brock Purdy definitely doesn't seem like the guy right now. So it's going to be interesting. Again, Debo out. Brandon Ayuk tears his ACL. We'll see what happens. With CMC. Listen, I don't know about CMC, man. Like, I just don't. Listen, I told everybody I had a bad feeling that he doesn't play at all this year. I know they keep saying that he's going to come back. He's going to come back. I don't know, man. When you're getting like overseas opinions in like Germany about things that are going on, it just doesn't sound good to me, man. It just doesn't sound good to me, especially when, you have a guy in Jordan Mason that's playing at a high level, right? That's certainly not their issue. The issue right now is the quarterback play. So we shall see what happens. And Mike, listen, this is the reason why I didn't draft him in my fantasy is number one, man. I was not in the Christian McCaffrey group, man. I just was not. I consistently said that he scared me, right? He absolutely scared me. That's why I said the two guys that I would draft in the top were going to be Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. And both of those guys are proving me right. Listen, all my stuff isn't right? I've screwed up on a lot of players, but those two were right. And they're giving some guys some really good success. And then we talked about the Steelers 37-15. The Jets are a complete clown show right now. I don't even know what to say about the Jets, man. I really don't. Rich says, yeah, CMC shut down. Yeah, I just think he's going to be shut down for the year. I do. Javon says the Niners are feeling the effects of multiple deep playoff runs, and the Super Bowl hangover is hitting them hard. Yes, I agree with that. Mike says that your wife says you aren't pro. Hell no, she knows I'm far from perfect. Miners are dealing with long playoff runs, Mike says, right? And being successful, having to pay guys. Exactly. You pay big guys, right? You're paying guys like Trent Williams over there, right? You're paying guys. Look, you just Brandon Ayuk, and now he's not going to play for a year. Right? You paid Debo Samuel. And let me ask you this. I want to get in this conversation with you guys. I mentioned this about Hassan Reddick. Obviously you saw Hassan Reddick hires Drew Rosenhaus, and now all of a sudden Hassan Reddick is back. He's going to play. They're going to work something out. They waive all the fine. Like, I got a big problem with that, man. Like, I don't have a problem with guys getting their bag and guys getting their money. But what is that showing the up and coming generation, of the NFL? That basically you can whine and cry about whatever you want. You're always going to get your way, right? I mean, that's essentially what happened. This guy, and listen, I get it, right? The guy wanted, he wanted to be paid, and he wanted to be paid the top of his position. And I understand all that. I understand how it works. But, at the end of the day, what is this? What does this show? What does this prove? I mean, you basically just waived everything that he was being fined for, which just shows that that's a joke. Right? Just show that everything that you put in place is a complete joke. And now you're going to give him basically the money that he wanted anyway, because he hired the super agent in Drew Rosenhaus that we knew was going to get a job done. And now he's going to be able to play. Right? So it's just tough for me because, this is my first year not coaching, but, as coaching for such a long time and coaching softball and soccer and basketball and watching these kids grow up into great young men, it just sucks that, these are the guys, and this is the kind of system that we're allowing them to look into, right? I know I sound like old school. I sound like the old guy here, but I just don't like the way it went down. I just don't like the way it went down. Rich says, but he signed a contract that wasn't like, and that's right too. I mean, if every player always wants to go back to the table, then why don't they just sign 1-year deals? Right. If every single player wants to go back to the table every 2 years when they say, well, I've over exceeded my contract, well, then just sign a 1-year deal. right? Because then you're going to get the top money every single year, but you're coming off of that for that job security, right? You're coming off of that for that job security. So if you do a Brandon Ayuk and you tear your ACL, that you have the job security, right? I always bring that back to Earl Thomas, right? I always bring that back when he played on that 1-year deal and he tore his ACL, right? That's why they want that. That's why they want that job security. So, yeah, again, there's got to be a little give or take here, man. And I don't think there's any give or take at all. Like Mike says, what stops the team from hiring a guy for $10 million as a consultant after they retire? Right? Nothing, right? Nothing at all. And that's the thing, to make up for it versus using the cap. I mean, listen, that versus using the caps. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, and then you have the capologists out there. Like you have guys like, Howie Rosen. We had Joe Banner back in the day, who was all about the cap and all about that cash, right? But I'm curious to see if, when Hassan Reddick comes back, if he's going to make a difference right away. Right? Is this a guy? Do you feel like this was a guy that was working? Was this a guy that was continuing to work out and say that I'm in game shape, that I'm okay? Or is this a guy that you think was kind of just, just laying around, having a good time, just waiting for that phone to ring, right? Now, all of a sudden, he's got to get in, he's got to get in NFL shape. He's got to get in game shape. He's got look, man, I said this before, and I'll say it again about Hassan Reddick. I do not doubt this guy's talent at all. He's one hell of a pass rusher. But when you consistently flip teams year in and year out, there's a reason why that you don't stay on a team, man. That's right. He was in Japan. That's right. He was in Japan vacationing this season. I forgot about that. Exactly. He won't be ready until week 14. Can you imagine if that's the case, man? They say he's in, I think Shefty came out today, and said that he was in the building and, looking over the playbook and on it. I don't know, man. Here, I'm going to sound hypocritical here, but wasn't this the guy that technically went into business for himself with the Philadelphia Eagles when he just said, look, man, he was out there free balling, just going out and rushing the passer whenever he wanted. So does he really need a playbook? I mean, honestly, maybe he's just going to go out there and just rush the passer, right? He's going to go out there and just rush the passer. So we'll see. I don't know. Again, I don't know how this is all going to work, but one thing for sure is they definitely need the help. And again, this could be remember Joe Douglas was here. Joe Douglas in Baltimore. Now Joe Douglas is in New York. This could be, an indictment of the Joe Douglas era, right? Of how this deal gets done. This could be an indictment on the Joe Douglas era. So we shall see. Rich says, there's a difference between in shape and football shape. Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. Like when T.O. was sitting out, I knew when he came back, he was ready to roll. Right, that's a dude who consistently went to the gym and consistently, stayed in game shape and consistently was there, whenever his number was called. So again, we're live right here from Pike's Pub, 455 2nd Street Pike, right across from the Maggio Shopping Center, right next to Southampton Beverage. As always, make sure you're following on all social formats produced by Rise and Rack Media. Wherever you're following right now, make sure you're getting in. You're getting in, man. You're subscribing and liking the stream. Win Daily Sports, Heat Ratio Sports, Rise and Rack Media. We're all over it, and make sure you're following that Pike's Pub Facebook page as well, so you can keep up with live events every single night and the food specials as well. But Rich, listen, honestly, I think he's going to come back and he is going to be good. Rich says, do you think Howie will make a trade at the deadline for a key piece this year? I don't know, man. I'm still waiting to see if this Jahan Dotson trade ever works out, right? We did give up. We gave up more for Jahan Dotson than what they gave up technically for Amari Cooper, right? So, I mean, when you think about it, I'm still waiting to see if this plays out. Maybe remember, we all kept saying this. There's a reason why that a team in Washington that's winning, that has a young quarterback, that has a new offensive system, that's continuing to keep a guy, or continue to let this guy go, right? There's got to be a reason. We continue to say that. So, and that's the thing. If this guy doesn't produce, we know that he just wasn't as good as we thought he was, right? So we'll see, right? But key deadline piece, the only thing I could see is, maybe some offensive line depth because, well, one of the things that they came into this year was that they were really lacking offensive line depth. And I don't think Mailata is going to play again this year. I'm going to be honest with you. I think he's done. That hamstring, he couldn't even walk on it. And when you're a big guy, even if it's a 4 to 6 or 6 to 8 week injury, and then you got to come back and you got to get acclimated again, and you got to work. I don't know how much we can expect from Jordan Mailata, going into the rest of this year. So, when you think about it, I think that if there's some offensive line depth out there, I think that's what Howie, would really, like a Mekhi Becton, something like that, kind of move like that. I think defensively speaking, I think that they'd like their defense room, right? Like I think that, Josh Sweat has really started to really take shape a little bit. He did have, he got to the quarterback a lot, obviously the last couple of weeks, but before that, he was getting a couple steps. He just wasn't finishing, right? Maybe Bryce Hall, they paid Bryce Hall a lot of money, man. A lot of money, right? They played him a lot of money. So, looking at this, you have to look at it as, and say to yourself, look, if they paid him a lot of money, they're going to expect that back, that ROI back. So I don't think he's going to go out and get anybody. A lot of things they did in the past was out of necessity. And I don't think the necessity is really there this year. I mean, the secondary is key, right? Maybe linebacker, right? Maybe linebacker. Again, Zach Bond is a nice, good football player, right? Nakobe Dean is very inconsistent. Nakobe Dean is good some plays, not good other plays, right? But again, they do have guys, like a Jeremiah Trotter Jr. that they're trying to really evolve. And you love the young guys, like you say, in Kason Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, who are playing fantastic. So I don't know what else they would really look to give, especially when you talk about assets, right? How many assets do you want? Rich says, I think Jordan is a grade 3. Yeah, exactly. Grade 3 hamstring tear. One of the worst that you can have, especially for a left tackle, a guy that uses his lower body to push off of, right? And to really stand upright. I don't think we see Jordan Mailata again this year. I said that in the beginning when he got hurt and he came out in the crutches, and we start reading about it. And I was like, you know what? I just don't see it. I don't feel like we will see it. So we shall see. And I think, listen, Fred Johnson, journeyman, right? Journeyman Fred Johnson. You got to put your hat off, man, to Fred. The guy has come over and he stepped right in. And again, if it's not for Jalen holding on to the ball too long, he's doing his job. Right, you can't ask this guy to hold down a guy like on the other side. Listen, like a Brian Burns. Okay, before he went out for 5 to 7 seconds, right? You have to get rid of this ball, and that's one of the biggest things that we have to look at. And I think that Fred Johnson will be obviously very serviceable going forward, as long as the play calling stays the way it is. He's been terrific, right? He's been terrific. So, and I like, what I like, Rich? I like that they didn't mess with the line, right? Keep Lane where he's at, right? Keep Lane where he's at. Because credit to Harry for Fred J. Harry, who talked to me. What am I missing? Like I like how they say, you know what, Lane, stay where you're at. We're just going to put Fred on the left, okay, and we're going to keep everybody where they're at. And just Howie, it was autocorrect. Yeah, credit Howie. Like, you got to listen. As much as we want to rip Howie for certain things, we do have to credit him as well. He listen. The Mekhi Becton move, I think, was huge. We talked about that in the offseason. He is a tremendous stature right there, man. Like, honestly, like his body, his size is very intimidating. And the one thing he just did was he lacked confidence. We talk about that. He lacked confidence. And when you are a top pick, you are a top overall pick, and you lack confidence, what happens is you got to get it back. And sometimes you're not going to get it back on the same team. And, coming over here to Philadelphia and with Stoutland University, right? Jeff Stoutland, talk about the GOAT, as always, the GOAT. Unbelievable. The guy always has people ready to go. You saw Tyler Steen again, filled in, did a remarkable job again, man, because he's been coached up. And Mekhi Becton been coached up. The thing about Mekhi Becton is just got to stay healthy, right? And look at that reception right there for Tampa Bay, man. Rashad White, like I said, man, already Rashad White is going to be that pass catching back. There's already throwing at Rashad White. So hopefully you got that bet in, that over 2.5, because he's already proven that he's going to get that ROI tonight, man. I love it. Baker is balling. Love it, man. Stoutland University. He's Hall of Fame coach for linemen. Yo, we got to thank Chip Kelly for that, man. We got to thank Chip Kelly. One thing we got to thank Chip Kelly for. Well, actually, we got to thank Chip Kelly for Lane Johnson, even though I probably could have picked Lane Johnson, right? I mean, he was the obvious pick. And Jeff Stoutland, right? I mean, Jeff Stoutland was picked by Chip Kelly. So, that's one thing we got to thank Chip for, man. Because Stoutland, remember, who was the guy that we had, before that we oh man, why, Rich, I know you can help me out here. The offensive line coach that we had, that Andy made a defensive coordinator, right? Oh my God, I can't remember his name. Howie will never give Chip credit. Chip throws him in the broom closet. But they said that had to be the most awkward time ever. That when they put him down the hall in the NovaCare Center and basically wasn't allowed to do anything, man. It's so crazy when you think about it. It really is, man. It's so crazy. I think his name was Juan. I can't remember his last name. So if you remember his last name, let me know. But he was a fantastic offensive line coach in the Andy Reid era, right? In the Andy Reid era, fantastic offensive line coach. So man, already the Buccaneers are Juan Castillo. That's it. Juan Castillo. Bucks are driving right now. Already. I said, man, that defense, man, is just not there for Baltimore this year. Up to a 4th and down. They're going for it, man. Definitely going for it on 4th down. And it's probably, I think it's like 4th and inches, 4th and 1. Let's see if Baker goes for this, man. Let's see. This could be a sneak. We shall see. But this is the thing about Baltimore. Their defense just has not been what it used to be, man. It just has not been what they used to be. Man, Sean Tucker's in for this, man. Wow. Oh, that's a great trickery right there. McMillan with that. Well, that's a great Liam Cohen. I'll tell you what, he's one of those secret offensive coordinators that nobody's talking about on Tampa Bay. They just profiled him up on the broadcast. But Liam Cohen has been a absolute gem, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right here, calling this offense, man. Like you talk about what he's been able to do. Yeah, Mike, I'm telling you, man. Let's go. Let's go and see if we can get this long touchdown. Keep saying, man. There goes Baker. What'd I say? What do we say? It's going to be a 30, 40-yard touchdown by Mike Evans, and there it is already. So hopefully people cast on that call with the Mike Evans touchdown. Okay, right there, because again, man, it was just too easy. You could just see how that was going to play out, right? Rich, I got to give myself credit for that, right? Got to give myself credit for that, right? I mean, we are on an absolute heater, man. We're on a heater right here at WinDailySports.com. And there he goes, man. Like I said, man, he's going. I don't think he's going to get the over 4.5, but he's going to get that over 54.5, maybe to 60 yards, because he's going to get 30-yard touchdown just like he did right there, man. I love it, man. I love it. 7-0 already. This game, that's why it's over 50, man. Over and under 50, man. It's going to go over 50 tonight. It's definitely going to go over 50 because, listen, Baltimore's going to come down and do the same exact thing. So right there. So let's see right there on that drive already. That's what I love about it. You already got on that drive, you got a catch from Rashad White. Yeah, we got yeah, Baker's already thrown for 43 yards. Right? It's crazy, man. Like, again, absolutely nuts. Let's see. Where's that? Oh, here we go. So, yeah, we got Rashad White with a catch already. We got Mike Evans with 25 yards already. He's already halfway to the over and under 54 and a half. Okay, so again, let's see what Rashad Bateman can do if he can actually give us a couple catches here. But listen, this is what this Baltimore offense is, or this Tampa Bay offense has been doing all year. And I think again, like what Liam Cohen is doing is he's playing into the strengths. Listen, Chris Godwin is actually like the number one rated receiver this year already, just behind or just ahead of Justin Jefferson because Justin Jefferson missed some time, but. Listen, Chris Godwin has been playing on another level. And again, they're putting him in those right positions, right? Cade Otton is playing a serviceable tight end, right? And now that you have these young guys in Bucky Irvin and Sean Tucker in the backfield, it's been fantastic because it's given everybody a different look. And you got guys like, again, McMillan, who you just saw, who could be a gadget guy, and Sterling Shepard, who I kept saying used to be a number one wide receiver for the New York Giants, just had the ACL problems, right? So listen, and again, the offensive line has been drastically different this year, really giving Baker a lot more time. And Baker's getting rid of the ball quick. That's one thing that a lot of people haven't really looked at is Baker's been getting the ball out quick. And that's one of the biggest things. All right, 25. Of course, it was 25 yards. I said it was going to be 30, right? But again, close enough. But yeah, this is what Mike Evans does all the time. It's what Mike Evans does all the time. It wouldn't shock me if you got another one tonight, man, because the defensive backfield for Baltimore has just been a complete mess. You're right, Rich. Baker throws the ball 3 seconds or less. He gets it out, man. And that's the biggest thing. And that's what we're talking about, with the Eagles. We're talking about with Jalen Hurts, that he has to get the ball out faster. Now, when we watch this Baltimore offense, I'm curious to see if they're just going to run this down their throat with Derrick Henry, or because of that play, if they're going to try to switch, because you never know, man. You just never know what they're going to do. Sometimes, you think the offense is going to come out, just going to start running. So they're bringing it out. That's a good return. There's a nice return up to the 35, man. So that they're already starting off with good field position. And we're gonna let's see what happens right now. Lamar having a stellar year right now, just playing out of his mind. And actually, what I love about Lamar this year is he's kind of just taking over the game, man, like by himself at times. It's like taking over the game by himself. So I'm curious: is it going to be first run or first pass, man? I think you got to establish this run, especially now that you see your defense is kind of scrambling a little bit. And Baker just ran right down your throat. Yeah, exactly. Throw that big horse out there, and we'll see what happens. You can wear that guys down, but come on, man, Dave. We're gonna bring my boy Dave Gleckner in from SiriusXM, one of my co-hosts on the Sunday night show. Does a lot of work at Win Daily Sports, a lot of work for everybody, hitting bets, hitting tickets, you name it. Dave, my man, what's going on, buddy? Dave's looking at his bets right now. He is looking at his bets. Hey, Dave, you're on mute. We're gonna bring Dave in, and Dave's having a little technical difficulties. That's all right. Dave's got a little technical difficulties. We'll put him out back in the green room and see if he can connect back in a minute. There goes Lamar running. He's one thing about Lamar, man. He's got to be careful. He's been running a lot this year. I think Dave's frozen. Rich, Dave's got to reconnect and come back in. I think Dave is frozen because I'm still looking at him. He might not even know he's frozen. It's funny. That's all right. He'll come back in. He'll be fine. Listen, we're already at midfield right now for Baltimore. So, they love that screenplay. Zay Flowers is so good, man. He is so good. My God. Remember, like, I don't know if anybody watched, but I had I talked about Zay Flowers being a top 10 receiver this year, in this offense, if they utilize him correctly, and they've finally been utilizing him, very, correctly in the right format. And these are the plays, man. When you get that block, look at the block out there with the tackle. I mean, that's such an easy play for Zay Flowers, man. He's such a phenomenal talent. Now they got to run this ball. Yep, there you go. Listen, man. Tampa's waiting for it, brother. They are waiting for it. Let me tell you, Davis is. I think he froze up. He doesn't even know he froze up. Here he comes. He's coming. Yeah. Listen, over the last 3 games, you know what I mean, Rich? They've really utilized his skill set more than anybody, I think, on this team. I mean, we always know. There he is. There. Let's see if we can get Dave in here. Dave. Yo, Dave. Dave, can you hear me? Hi, Dave. Can't hear you, Dave.
Oh, can you hear me now?
There we go. There we go.
All right.
They had like the Verizon commercial, my man. What's going on, Dave?
Yeah, thanks, Tone. Man, a lot's going on, right? A lot of people talk about the best time of year in sports being, right around March Madness, which I don't disagree. But now when you got basketball, hockey, football, and even the World Series baseball, all 4 coming together, it's just a great time to be a sports fan, especially a Philly one.
Yeah, man, listen. We went around the NFL, went around everything again. Dave was on Sirius this weekend with Jason. Not sure how that went. They a little inside joke, but me and Dave, you can hear me and Dave on Sundays, probably starting up again in January on Sunday nights, man. I'm going to say this: we got the best show on the Sirius channel when we're on, so I'm not ashamed to say that. And Dave does a lot for Wendell Sports, and Dave, you just talked about it, man. Like the one thing we haven't talked about tonight, and I definitely want to hear your thoughts on everything Philly as well, but NBA starts tomorrow, man. Like the NBA starts tomorrow. I'm a big NBA guy. I know you're an NBA guy. A lot of things have happened, a lot of trades, different people changing spots last couple of years. The Sixers, are we going to be healthy for that first game against Milwaukee? But what are you expecting this year, NBA wise, man? Any surprises, anything, for Tuesday NBA that you're looking at?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, this year, I mean, to me, it's kind of wide open. I know it's Celtics or bust in a way, just the way they played to finish off last year, but to be able to run 2 straight seasons, and really, if you look at the Celtics, this is 3-4 seasons in the making. It's a lot of basketball, Tone. I'm not so sure that they're going to be able to endure everything. So I think it's open. And if we look at the Eastern Conference, there's a lot of teams that are ready to take the next step. The Sixers being one, I think it's a make it or break it year. I mean, it's pretty much Embiid, here's your best roster ever. Find a way to get this happening because, Paul George ain't a young chicken. If they don't at least get past the second round now, that's it for this team. The window's closed, and we got to move on from Embiid. That's how big this year is. And then also knocking on the door, the Knicks. And the Knicks have made some curious moves, in my opinion. They had a real good camaraderie, real good tight group. And they had to kind of break it up. DiVincenzo doesn't like it, but they brought in Cat because they said, hey, we lost some big guys like Hartenstein in free agency. I need a big guy in the middle. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of blend him in with Brunson, but they're very good. And then we can't forget about Milwaukee. And Indiana made a strong run, obviously, at the end of the year last year. So the Eastern Conference, I think it's wide open, but really what's interesting is the West.
Oh.
I mean, Dallas makes the finals, right? But you still got Denver. You got LeBron running back with the new coach. OKC, geez, I think the sky's the limit for them. There's a lot of really good teams out there. Minnesota as well. I like Minnesota, what they've done. I think they got a chip on their shoulder, especially even watching the WNBA last night. Minnesota's a good basketball town. So, yeah, it's wide open. I can't wait for it. It's going to tip off. Usually in basketball, me and NBA, it's 2, 3, 4 teams. This year, I think it's 8 to 10.
Yeah, it's a lot of different teams, man, this year that are going to be involved, man. It really is. And I'll tell you what, man, the thing about the Knicks was puzzling to me. Again, like Rich says, I don't know if Cat gels with the Knicks. And I'll tell you what, man. Like, I think Minnesota made out pretty well in that deal.
Okay.
Like, right? And the one thing about the Knicks is who's on their bench now. Like, they went all in, and now they have nothing. Like, they have the kid who came off last year, right?
Yep.
McBride is
Deuce.
right?
Deuce
Right.
McBride. Yep.
Right. And who else? Nobody.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that. What team did that last year? Phoenix Suns had
Yeah.
absolutely no bench, and they were dead. Like they were dead the whole year, and then dead. Obviously, yeah, I agree. I think the Wolves got better, and this the big reason the Wolves got better. You got a pissed off Julius Randle.
Oh,
Like, I mean, I question sometimes where that guy's head is. I think sometimes he can play a little selfish, but now in that kind of system, they're a more team defense oriented team. I think he's in the perfect spot. I think they're good.
yeah. I'll tell you, man. Rich says too about OKC is they're going to be tough this year. Listen, there's a lot of interesting storylines, man. Honestly, and I just, what do you think about with Clay? Like, what do you think? Are you in the thought process that Clay can't go somewhere to just be like a piece, like his ego's too big and he wants to be like, an all-star, even though we know he's not an all-star anymore. You know what I mean? Like, how do you think he works out this year in Dallas?
Yes, and yes. I'm with you. I'm not the biggest Clay guy because of those insecurities I think he carries with him. He doesn't want to be Steph's Batman. He wants to tell you he's just as good of him. And, the days that Steph didn't play or the nights that he would gun up 10, 12 threes and he'd make them. I mean, he's good. Don't get me wrong. But I also think he's not that good anymore. He had a horrible shooting stretch last year to the point that they benched him, right? He was 6-man. And I think he took that a little personally when he got into free agency. And that's why, he kind of moved on, didn't want to make a good deal with the Warriors to come back there. So I'm with you. I think he better take a little bit of backseat. I mean, Luka's the guy, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how he gels with him. Hopefully this later of a stage in his life, he's going to be able to. But talking about Golden State, they missed on 3 straight pitches in the offseason. They could be in some trouble. I know they were setting up for Paul George, and it just didn't happen. They had a trade in the making. They thought it was there, and they couldn't just get anything going. So I think that team's in a little bit of trouble. And the one that might replace them coming up, watch out for Memphis again, right? Jaws back. You get a lot of pieces there. I think Memphis could return to a formidable foe in the West.
If people forget about that, man, you forget because you're so, all the jaw stuff and all the craziness, right? That it happened. Everybody forgets. But dude, he's back, man.
Yeah.
Like he is back.
Marcus Smart. Like, don't forget they got Smart and he hurt himself last year. And then Zach Edey is a draft pick that I think could go very under the radar. The huge 7'4" guy from Purdue that we all saw on the national stage last year. I mean, he's slow, he's big-footed, but he's a force down low. And I think Memphis will figure out how to use him.
Yeah, I do too, man. He's one of these guys. You see it all the time, man. Too much is made out of, a lot of these draft strategies and a lot of these reports, and look, man. I mean, let's make no mistake about it. I mean, there's a lot of reports with Bronny James, right? Should he actually be in the league? Like he's drafted over guys that should have been in the league. What's the guy? You're a college guy. The guy was from like NC State. That like.
Oh.
Right, the huge guy,
DJ Burns. He has like a vending machine, like business on the side. I love my man.
Right. You mean he couldn't do more than Bronny James?
Don't get me started on that. Yeah, you don't get me started on Bronny. Right, he shouldn't even be in Europe.
Look. What I tell you, there is Mike Evans already hurt. Oh, he was limping on the sideline. Like I saw it earlier before he went on air. I said. I wouldn't bet the over 4.5 catches because I said I'll do the yards, but he seems like he gets like 3 catches. He's out of the game. Like,
well, he has if you looked at it, and it's weird. I was writing something on Windale earlier. Chris Godwin has like 53 targets and like I want to say 43 catches. He's catching almost like 90%, right? Mike Evans has like similar targets. It's like 46, 47, and only 25 catches. Like I know he's getting the volume, but he's not pulling them down. So the catches, it's hard for him to get over 4.5. I agree.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. Let's get back to Philly, man. Let's swing back to the Sixers and you said a lot. You said like this is it, man. This is the year. They're very deep. They're probably the deepest team I think that they've ever had in a Joel Embiid era. I mean, to be honest with you, what age not a factor. Just saying the actual talent of who they have at what positions is better than they've ever had.
Yes.
And my thing is, it's all about health, right? I think we should know that, right? It's all about health. But I think, I don't know where you are at with Paul George, but I do think this is a bigger move than people are really looking at. I know he's 34, 35. I get that, but he did have one of the best years of his career, if not the best last year. And I don't think he has to do as much. And I think, the ability to kind of like let Tyrese be Tyrese and then take that load off of Joel with PG-13, I think it just creates a whole new dynamic for this offense. And I just think that if they could stay healthy, man, this could be the best offense we've seen in a long time.
I agree. I'm big on Paul George for a few reasons. And the first being, he is what Tobias Harris should have been. And Tobias just never turned into that stretch 3, stretch 4 type guy. You got the point guard dominant who can spread the floor and make plays and then get guys open. Tyrese, right? He's so fast. Joel, he can do the high pick and roll, or we can get him down the post, either one. Paul George, he had I want to say maybe his best shooting percentage last year from 3. It was right up there. I remember he shot really well from 3 last year. And that's exactly what they need him. I'm looking it up now. Looking at 3-point, he was 41.3 last year. He had a 41.4 a few years. No, it was the best. It was 41.1. So his best 3-point shooting year was last year. And that's perfect. Like, to spread the floor out, to be that dynamic 3-point shooter, but also a guy that can put it on the floor and be a threat too, and won't give you those empty numbers. So yeah, I'm very big on Paul George for this team. I don't really love Paul George, to be a centerpiece on other teams, but for this team, I think it's a great addition. It's the only addition the Sixers won the offseason, and it wasn't just because of Paul George. Don't go over the other names. How they found a way to bring back Kelly Oubre. How they found a way to bring back KJ Martin, Kyle Lowry. And then they were able to add pieces like Reggie Jackson was a late piece that I think is going to be great for them. I'm telling you, another one that can just sit out there and stroke it. Eric Gordon, I think, is going to be big for them. If they're able to hold on to Ricky Council and hopefully find him some time on the court. I mean, if he doesn't get a ton, but NBA is a long season, he's going to find time eventually. It's a very, very good team. You're right, and deep as can be. We'll see how he plays the pieces, but Justin Edwards was a good draft pick. I'm down. I'm telling you, I'm down on Jared McCain. I'm still stunned. I'm not happy that they didn't take Dalton Connect, but
I wanted to ask you about that, man. I know you were always talked about him, man, and he's like blowing. Dalton Connect's
he's
blowing.
a dog. You need dogs. This dude dropped 20 straight shooting threes over Bowl. Oh man! But anyway, I digress because you don't need McCain right now. McCain's your like 2-3 year down the road guy. So I'll live another day. But yeah, they're telling you said the word. They're deep. This is the deepest, most talented team they've had. It's old. Don't get me wrong, but that doesn't mean you can't win. But it's now or never.
It's now or never, man. And I think one of those guys, like you just said, I mean, you got a guy like Eric Gordon. He's an old guy who just can stroke it from the outside, right? I mean, it's funny, man, when you talk about all the teams. We remember Big Shot Bob, right? We all remember Robert Ory.
Yep.
Right? All he ever did was come in and knock down a tray. Right. Yep. And that's what we have in Eric Gordon. Like this team, and a lot of it has to do with the way Nick Nurse really formulates this team and the way he sets these rotations out. I'm curious to see, like, what do you think the starting lineup's going to be? Like, is Oubre going to start? Like, what do you think is going to happen on this team?
Well, one guy I didn't mention who I love because he's come from the Heat way is Caleb Martin. I think you got to find a way to get – so my lineup, my ideal, I would look at Maxey. I would go Martin, PG. I'll put Embiid in there. And then, you got space because PG and Embiid are big enough to play the 3-4 that I think Oubre is better off the bench. So I'll put the veteran Gordon in there as the 2 and put Martin as the 3. I think that's my ideal. And then you got, obviously Lowry in for Maxey. What do you give him? 15 minutes a game spelling him. Oubre comes in as your hot guy off the bench, good 6-man. And Reggie can come in and help too. I think that's my ideal. I'm curious what you think. That's where I'm at. And Andre Drummond, let's not forget about that back.
I know. That's what that's what Rich said. You talk about. I mean, listen. Finally, man. Like, I mean, look, we needed it. We needed that. No, listen. I was thinking the same thing, man. I love Caleb Martin.
Yeah.
All right. You talk about dog. Here's a guy that wants to guard the best player on the other team, right? Who's battle tested in the playoffs? Who's battle tested in the trenches? Like, this guy is an absolute dog. I love him. I do. I think he was one of the, one of the most underrated signings of the, of the entire offseason. Like, everybody was talking about PG-13, and rightfully so. But Caleb Martin, man, this dude can get it. And, he's like a poor man's Jimmy Butler. Like, you think about it, right? I mean, he just wants to play. I think it's interesting you talked about Eric Gordon. I never thought about Gordon in the starting lineup. I never even thought about that, but it's not actually a bad idea, because I don't want Oubre starting, only because I just want him to be that guy off the bench. I just think him coming off the bench with like Reggie Jackson and Kyle Lowry and Andre Drummond, man, that is a hell of a second team.
I agree.
And
you think about, like, Maxi's he's going to be a scorer. As well, he'll be a distributor. But when Lowry comes in, he's not the scorer, so you need to bring in scoring with Lowry. That's Oubre. So I like that pairing a lot. I agree with you. And does Eric Gordon, or does he really need to, like, he just needs to sit out there and just when he gets, like, I think it's the perfect spacing, adding him to the lineup. The curious point is, what are you going Martin? Because Martin's been good off the bench too, but he's been good started. Like, that's the one I think is kind of a coin flip as well.
Yeah, I like it. Well, here's a question though, Dave. It's early, but what's the crystal ball say for Dave for the Sixers this year, man? What do you think?
So
all stays right. All health is good. Everything works out. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I'm such a big Nick Nurse guy. I truly believe the guy is a very smart basketball coach. And I think when you give him this many pieces and this many tools, I do think he can figure this thing out. I mean, it's a little bit of a Rubik's Cube, right? You're going to have to play. But in the end, I think he's a good enough coach to drive this team to the number 2 seed in the East. I do believe the Celtics will still be up there. They're very deep. It's just my concern with the Celtics is how long can this keep going, playing that many games? It's like LeBron year after year. That guy's a freak in nature. You need like 5 of those. And I think it's going to catch. You even saw a little bit with Porzingis last year. He missed the finals game, the end of the Eastern Conference Finals. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the Sixers. I'm going to say they get to the 2 spot. I'm going to say they win 53 games this year. That gives them 53 and 29. The hardest part is, and these off days, these back-to-backs, and what are we going to do with an older roster on back-to-backs? But as long as they find, if Embiid plays 60, I'm fine. Keep him healthy. That's all right. They got enough depth here to win games without him.
I agree, man. Like, I'm not like, I know everybody's all up in arms about the back-to-backs and this and that. Like, I'm honestly, that's not my concern, man. Like, we've watched too many years of an unhealthy Joel Embiid in the playoffs. I don't care. Whatever it takes to get us there, just please, let's get there. And I want to see a healthy team in the playoffs. That's all I'm saying, man. That's all I want to say. Now, now, pivoting a little bit here. Speaking of playoffs, me and you haven't talked, man, and since the heartbreaking loss of the Philadelphia Phillies, man. Like, I know we were, we were all in with this team. We were excited about this team. Looking at it as a whole, man, like what's your thought process now? A week and a half later.
So a few things. I think they flat out choked. Just like, if I see the Dodgers score the most runs ever in a league championship series, like they did against the same Mets pitching staff we saw, got the most walks ever, won the most games by 6+ runs. They just smoked that Mets pitching staff, and we sit there and flailing at everything. We swung at everything out of the zone. We had Jeff Hoffman spiking balls 12 feet short of the mound to the catcher 2 times in a row to let the Mets get that bases loaded situation when Lindor hits the grand slam. I just think they just choked. I'm just gonna be honest. But I'm in full belief that this team needs to come back very similar to how they're constructed now. Then they got to run him back one more time. You're watching what the Dodgers have done, right? Yeah, I know Ohtani's a big piece that they brought this year, but a lot of the other guys have been there a few years and have lost those, not even LCSs. They've lost in the divisional round. They lost to the Diamondbacks and Padres 2 years straight in the divisional round coming off a bye. I think the Phillies can get a little motivated by this. I need a new outfield, primarily a better center fielder and better left fielder. And I'm talking to you, Marsh and Rojas. And I need a little bit better bullpen, and I need a better fourth starter. No more Taiwan. I know you got to just dangle him out there in spring training and see what he is. But those pieces alone, and maybe another – I'd prefer a steady closer too, instead of this, ring around the rosy kind of thing that Thompson does. But it's not big pieces they have to make. Now, obviously, the big albatross in the room, and I wonder where you are in this. I love Juan Soto. And I'm sure you do too, and that's probably a big reason that Kevin Long's here. Can it happen? That's I can keep bringing on these big salaries. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Listen. All I can say is, after watching that at bat and watching what he did,
it was awesome.
It was. It brought me back, and it brought me back to exactly like what we watched with Bryce, man. Like, it's this guy took it and he said, I'm going to be the leader. And again, I'm with you. It's that Mark Andrews touchdown.
Oh, they dusted him off the last couple of weeks. Yeah. He's finally, good.
And Andrews gets a touchdown, man.
I can't believe that he was ignored for 3 weeks. But yeah, he's back now.
Yeah, he's finally back. He was wide open too. But what I look at too, which is what you just said. I mean, I understand that it's an open checkbook. I understand that Middleton is going to pay for whatever. But at the end of the day, man, like, I just can't see them going in. And you're right. You're talking about Bryce Harper, who, listen, there was whispers of wanting that extension, right? Or whatever he wanted. And now you're going to bring in a $500 million. Like, Soto's going to get $500 million.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a pipe dream. I do. I do.
I agree. I'd like to talk about Richard's comment there. Turner with that contract has been a huge disappointment. Maybe I'm on the other side. I don't think so. Like, I get what everybody thinks that he's got to. He batted .295. He led the team in hitting this year with 21 home runs in only 121 games. He was on his way to 30 homers. The year before that, he did hit 26. He had a WAR of 3.6 and 3 in the past 2 years, which was higher than some of his previous years. People want to rip Turner. Listen, I don't love some of his approach. I think he pulls off. I think he needs to take the ball the other way, and I think he swings at bad pitches. But if we can get that kind of tweaked out, Turner's the least of my worries. He should be leading off next year. That was my other point I was going to come to. We got to get rid of the Kyle Schwarber and leadoff thing. It's a pretty story. It's cool that he's going to set all these records. I need, in the playoffs, solo homers don't win. Like, I'm sorry. He hit the solo homer against the Mets, and here we go. 1-0 doesn't last long. We lose it in the first game with Wheeler's great game. I need Schwarber down the line. I need to try a different lineup next year, in my opinion.
I agree with that. Shout out to my man Edwin checking in. Says go Birds, my man, owner of Pals, and General Davis right here in Southampton, my man.
Nice.
Edwin, check it out. What's up, Edwin? Rich says hello numbers.
Yeah,
right?
It might be. I hear you, and I'm not arguing. He's the least of my worries. Like, that's just my point. Like, I have other guys that I really have concerns about. And
you know what it is about Turner? I think, like you just said, I think it not only his approach, but again, look, nothing but love here, Dave. See, we got all.
I love it.
Edwin's the man. He's such an awesome dude. Give JT a pound for me, brother. And Brian, by the way. But here's the way I look at it. He looks like nothing bothers him. He looks like he doesn't care.
Yeah.
And right? I mean, but when you look at it, his fielding, like Rich says, his fielding is subpar. I think that was my biggest focus. Like, when we needed big at bats from him, we didn't get it. When we needed, a big plays in the in the infield, we didn't get it. So I think, like, yeah, like I get the numbers, and I'm glad you said that because I didn't realize that. But I just think that, based on that contract, when we thought he was going to be like that 1B to Bryce Harper, he just never really amounted to that.
Yeah, I do think it's fair. Don't get me wrong. It's funny that I don't know why we care so much about what we pay players. Like, if you go back to that offseason and say we're getting Trey Turner and he was coming off one of the best seasons and almost an MVP, nobody would say don't sign. And he's had a rough kind of adjustment. I'm totally with everybody. It's just my point of contention. JT Realmuto hasn't hit a ball in the playoffs in 2 years. And Nick Castellanos drove us crazy last playoffs. He was the best player on the Phillies this playoff. So at least he came back and fixed himself. JT hasn't fixed it in 2 or 3 years. Alec Boehm looked absolutely a loss, like a deer in headlights. Like he swings. What do you have? 4 pitches in one game and 3 bats? Like we benched him. He looks like, and he can't field the ball. And then Bryce's stop. We got to talk about, I mean, he batted what, like 240 this year? Like, we got other center field has been a problem for 2 years. Why didn't we trade for someone at the deadline? We try, and Austin Hayes was your answer at the trade deadline. Like, I get people's contention with Turner, but I just named 6 other areas that it just drives me nuts.
No, listen, I it's funny you say, why do we worry about what we pay play? We always do. You're right.
I know.
Not my checkbook. It's not. I don't give a shit if you spend $1 billion on somebody. Like, it don't matter to me, right? Like, why should we care? I think it's just the fact that what we thought he was coming here to be. I think that's just the overall. But like you said, making. I don't know if those deals were there at the trade deadline. Based on what we would have had to give up for them specific players. So I do think that, maybe that's something we need to look at. But I do think that, what you said about Schwarber is, I was saying this earlier, somebody had mentioned it to me, and I never realized that. Like, yeah, you know what? He did have his best year of his career by batting 250 or 255. But even if he leads off with a home, it's only 1 run.
Yeah.
Right. And it's, there is no table setters up there like we had in 08. So yeah, you're right. I think that definitely has to change. But will Topper change it?
Right. And the most interesting part is I've seen other teams do this. Who did the Dodgers bat lead off?
Mookie Betts bat lead off. Ohtani, that's right. Ohtani.
Bryce Harper could be a really good leadoff hitter for this. Like, I'm in. Like, I'm just saying, like, there's some. I'm curious. Like, there's other options for me. I think Stott, if you could get him right, would be a great leadoff hitter too. Like,
one thing.
Stott, Turner. I would even dabble Harper out there, but it's interesting. I just need to move Schwarber a little bit around, is my opinion.
No, I get it, man. Listen, one thing's for sure, a lot of different things that are going to be coming. I would honestly, I don't know how you feel, but I would stick with, I was saying this earlier, I would stick with Estevez. I would stick with him. As long as he's not costing you, hurting you in the pocket that much, but I would stick with him.
And then he's your closer. Like, let's not I'm hearing they can't afford both Hoffman and Estevez, and I'm okay with going to Estevez. We've done the Hoffman experiment, and what I've learned with bullpen guys, Hoffman was a nobody before he got here and built himself into an all-star, which is fantastic. They just go on these big cycles, and we could be seeing a downturn eventually. Whereas Estevez, I think has solidified himself as a steady player in this league. So yeah, I'm with you.
I agree, man. I agree. Not much change is coming on, but hey, Dave, we got about 4 minutes to get out of here. Let's talk a little birds. I got to get your. I was asking everybody. Is the faith restored in the Philadelphia? Is your faith restored in the birds? Are you still saying, not yet? I still need more.
Not yet. I still need more. I'm sorry. It's the Giants. They have scored 1 touchdown at home in 4 games this year. They are atrocious, atrocious on the offensive line, which was great. You got it. Listen, you got to take care of business. I don't care who's there, and you got to make it look ugly. That's what we wanted them to do to Cleveland, right? So that's I'm totally. This game was awesome. I have no complaints. Well, I do have 1 or 2, but it's just I think what they did this week is what they need to do, and I'm very proud of them. I'm still completely annoyed at the first quarter offense. They come out, I think he threw 5 or 6 times on the first 2 drives. They never handed the ball to Saquon. He threw 14 times the whole game. So I think he threw like 7 or 8 the rest of the game. But what are we doing? And by the way, he never throws down the middle. Never. It's always outside, and then he holds on to the ball too long and gets sacked. So we need to establish the run early. This should be a run first team, and we're showing that. This is a very good offensive line, a great running back, as you know, and I know you love him. And we need to dominate at the line of scrimmage. That's how this team can win. Dominate the line on both sides of the ball, and stop the cuteness, right? Even that one time that they tried the end around with Saquon faking that like pitch, like it's just
what was that? I want to throw my TV off the wall.
I know. I'm like, what the hell? We were moving the ball, but there's some stuff still to fix, and we got to get there. But I will say this, Tony, I still think coming out of that, my most encouraging part is that they held Malik Neighbors to 41 yards on 4 catches. Darius Slay, I thought was going to be out of the game at half, came back and played hard. Mitchell's a stud. I mean, he ran the route for him once and should have caught the interception. DeJean, I mean, he looks great, even on punt returns. So I'm very encouraged by the back end of the defense more than anything. I know they got 8 sacks, but that was because coverage at times was so good too. So I'm not all the way back. I still need to see more, but I'm encouraged.
That's a good word. I like that. I'm the same way. I'm not all the way back, right? If all the way back, we would have had points in the first quarter. We would have, right? I mean, look, let's be honest, right? And I still need, I still need Jalen to be more, more precise. I need the better decisions.
Yeah.
I still need to see that. Now,
about him falling down the one time before he got sacked. And the other time he's like reaching his arm out already, like to like and putting his head down. It's just that presence in there. Yeah. I don't
know where that came from. I don't know where that comes from, man. Like, there he goes with the hammy. Is that
your boy
Evans?
Yeah.
That's how this dude, like Mike Evans, gets injured every game, dude.
Yeah, it's terrible for fantasy owners.
Like, I don't even know what he did.
Yeah, I got a text. Mike Evans might be cooked. Like that could be bad.
Oh my god. He almost caught it too. It was like a touchdown, man. Yeah. Rich says Jalen has happy feet instead of stepping in the pocket.
Yeah.
He just doesn't seem like. And again, I don't know what it is. Maybe this is who he is. I don't know. But just the difference. You're watching the guy in Baker tonight that drops back, gets rid of the ball, and then you got a guy in Jalen just holds onto the ball way too long, and that's just not going to get it done, Dave.
It's not, and that's my concern with this team going forward. I think we had the high highs 2 years ago. Jalen was just on the scene. You didn't have a book on him, and he was just tremendous playing football the way he should, free and loose. Now there's just too much going on in that mind, and he's not ready to fire. And my biggest problem, he does not throw the ball over the middle. He has every play that we've had recently is AJ Brown up the sidelines. Like it's either out route or go route. Like, and that's all we got. Like, he's not. That's what killed us last year too. Until he starts using all the field, we're going to be a very predictable offense. The difference this year is we got 26, and he is a game changer.
He is a game changer, man. He is definitely the best running back we've had since Shady McCoy. That's for damn sure, man. But Dave, listen, man, it's been great. I'm gonna let you get out of here. What do you got going? You got any big article shopping this week?
Yeah, just had the Monday night dual combo tonight. We'll get some some betting articles out later this week on WinDailySports.com, and then always college football. Assess that with some bets as well as DFS play Saturday morning on the CFB DFS Masterminds. And then, there's a lot going on with basketball coming up. I'll be very active talking about, some things NBA. I just had my fantasy draft last night. And before I get out of here, I had the first pick. I went with Jokic. I almost went Wemby. But the way Pop uses Wemby for fantasy reasons, I went with Jokic.
That's all right. Listen, for fantasy reasons, he covers all 3 statistical categories, man. You got to go.
But yeah, I'll be busy, Tone, and I love coming on here every night. I know you do a bang up job there over at Pike's Pub. So thanks for having me, and I appreciate it.
Always, brother. Always, man. We'll talk soon, man.
All right, be good.
There he is, man. Dave Gleckner from Sirius XM and Win Daily Sports. As always, make sure you're following them over at windailysports.com, man. But this has been great, as always. Another great night in the books right here at Pike's Pub. Shout out for everybody joining in. Shout out for everybody here for listening and following, for the 20 to 50 people that consistently were following online. All the comments, Javon and Rich and Adam, Dave as the guest, and again, Tyler, as always, my man Jim McGinnis checking in right here from Pike's Pub, man. It's been great, even grabbing a microphone for a half hour, doing some fantastic Phillies work. So as always, man, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and we get out of here. We'll be back here next Monday, as always, at 6 p.m. Make sure you're checking out windailysports.com during the week for the podcast. My man Rich says, yo, bro, I'm up in January. I'm coming on. Yo, Rich, I'm telling you, brother, that's it. The mic is right here, my man. It's always be for you, as always, man. You guys are the real ones. Always follow me from day one, so I much appreciate it. So, as always, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you back here next Monday.